I think there's a planet out there somewhere which beams thoughts directly into cats' brains because they're so sinister and so sneaky and so...
Well, they're very self-contained, aren't they?
That's the word I would use. They're evil, aren't they? Cats, they're evil.
They're not evil.
They are.
Stimulating late-night sporting debate for long-distance lorry drivers.
14 for the copy.
Young mums.
What time do you call this? Coming on?
And students who've taken too many of those caffeine tablets.
The Two Mikes, Parry and Graham on Talk Sport.
Look at the light! I go, don't worry about the time. How fast do you think the fastest cat can run?
The fastest cat can run?
Yeah.
I would say 20 miles an hour.
31 miles an hour.
Really?
The fastest has been recorded.
That's as fast as Usain Bolt.
Yeah,
he runs at about 28, 29 miles an hour.
Yeah, that's right.
Is that over a short distance, though?
Well, it's over a distance.
Well, they can't run like in a marathon, could they, at 20 miles an hour, if they'd win it?
Well, cats don't run marathons, you fool.
Talk Sport, we are the Two Mikes, and it's time to say a very, very good morning to Mr. Mike Porky Parry. Very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
Yes, very good morning to you, Mike. How are you tonight? Are you okay?
I'm very well, thank you.
Yeah, okay. Not feeling, battered, bruised, anything like
that? No, not particularly.
No.
Why?
No.
Should I be?
Well, I just thought we'd be giving the audience, one of the first things we have to do this evening, give the audience the results of the winners and losers. Yeah, I mean, I have no idea what it is, but
do you think it's important this week, then?
Well, I think it is.
Last week you didn't think it was important.
Well, it was played in the spirit of fairness, and I think that, we both made a good effort. Obviously one of us made a better effort than the other, and I'm happy to take the judgment of the people who matter most, and that is the millions of listeners who listen to us. I just wondered how it went.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll tell you what, before we do that,
yes.
Why don't I just ask you a brief question? About what time you got here.
What time I get here? Sorry, that's not a relevant question to anything at all.
Well, I mean, I understand that you tweeted out a little bit earlier on tonight, and I think it was something like 11 o'clock, saying, I'm just arriving at TalkSport Towers.
Listen, I think you've got to say this metaphorically. You've got to remember that I spend 24 hours a day working on this show. I don't have to be sitting physically in TalkSport Towers. Right. Actually at a physical desk, a piece of wood and metal.
So when it said at 10 to 11, just arriving at TalkSport Towers
for
tonight's Two Mikes show with old MG.
Yes.
Where were you then?
I was just about arriving.
Were you?
Yeah.
Because I got here at 11:37.
Yes.
As proven by the picture with me with a clock in the background.
Oh, what you have to take a picture of yourself and a clock just to remind yourself where you are and at what time you are.
I just like to put the time that I'm arriving, and it was sent out at 23:37 as well. So you can see that it was at the right time.
Yeah, well, good for you.
And I didn't see you.
Jolly how.
And so you must have been somewhere else.
Well, listen, this is a very big building. We have car parks around the front and around the back.
Oh, yeah.
We have...
Your car, I didn't see your car.
We have so many floors in this building, and they go down a lot. And I mean, in all, you've got in this building...
Should I get the signing in book to see what time you signed in?
I don't sign in when I come in. I have an executive pass, which gets me through the door. Do you not have one of these?
Yeah, but that registers. Every time you put that on the thing, it registers.
Well, I don't know about that.
Also, well, I do.
I mean, we've got over 30 studios in this building now, so I could have been in any one of those, couldn't I? Yeah.
Can we not find one better than this one to broadcast from?
Well, that's a bit harsh, isn't it? Yeah. Hey, you know that New Day paper?
Yes.
I mean, it gets better every day, really. The front
it's
today...
It's a wonderful thing, yeah.
It says social media sites named and shown by NSPCC. OK, that's fair enough.
It's not very good news,
very valid. But this little feature on the back.
Yeah, the listography.
Yeah, listography. And it says today, personal listography. I've been a bit mischievous here. List the 3 things you would love to buy.
Yes.
1, 2 or 3. And I've nominated as number 1... a decent newspaper. No, is that a bit harsh?
Well, I don't think it is.
I
don't think it is.
It's a joke, folks.
Some of my old colleagues at the Mirror who work on this paper will probably give me a hard time. But so far I haven't heard from them. But anyway, let's get back to winners and losers.
Indeed.
Last week, the result was 55 to 45 in my favour.
No, sorry. We're talking about this week's.
I'm just giving you a bit of a preamble.
No, I don't need a preamble. The audience don't want a preamble, honestly.
No, this needs to be done properly.
They couldn't care less about a preamble.
Last week, the result was 55 to 45 in my favour.
That's an historical fact.
This week, the result is 54 to 46 in your favour.
I think it's 55 to 45.
I've got it right here.
No. When the competition closed at 11 o'clock tonight.
No, it closes at midnight.
Closes at 11.
It closes at midnight.
Well, at midnight it was 55-45.
No,
yes, it was.
It was 54-46.
So I won by a factor of 10 percentage points.
Well, you've won you've won by slightly less.
I had no idea, because I don't watch during the day.
You've won by slightly less than I did.
Well, that's
last week.
And that's a pretty brilliant result, that. Thank you very much to all of you, the millions out there who got involved in the voting process. It just shows that in the end, justice will out.
So would you like to tell our audience of millions, as you put it, exactly what the score is now?
The score is...
The overall score.
55-45.
No, I mean the score in the competition.
I don't know. I'm not counting.
Well, would you like me to tell you what the score is?
Well, you can if you want.
It's 8.5 to 5.5.
Yeah, I don't think somebody's interested in that. They will be interested when it gets up to 8.5 to 8.5.
Now, considering that you say you don't watch it during the day.
Yes.
At 11:09 this morning.
Yes.
You sent out this tweet.
Yes.
Voting is still open in winners and losers on the two mics. Please add to the massive support I've already received for the sake of justice.
Yes, but I didn't check what the score was. I was merely stating the case unequivocally and openly to our millions of listeners. It's simple as that.
At 5:27 this morning, you tweeted this. Keep voting, Porky, to ensure a stunning victory over the rotund one.
Yes.
Most agree that my selections were relevant against a load of tosh.
Yes, that's right, yeah. Well, I think that's pretty fair analysis, isn't it?
A minute before
I think it must be, because that's the way the audience have voted.
5:25, you said, thanks for all your support in winners and losers on the two mics, but no complacency. Old MG is probably gerrymandering right now.
Well, I should imagine you were. You know, that's what you normally do, so why would you change the habit of a lifetime?
Surely if I was gerrymandering, I would have won.
Well, no, unfortunately. I've uncovered your gerrymandering, and I'm now able to...
So what is it that you think I've been doing?
To circumvent it. Well, in some way you have been skewing
some way
the voting process, yeah, and because it's...
Well, how were you able to triumph this evening, then?
Well, I just applied myself to the basic principles of what it's all about, and I think you'll find that a few behind-the-scenes moves...
the words you say.
Behind-the-scenes moves on my behalf have helped turn things around.
What's
That's all
cheating,
I'd say.
you mean?
No, not cheating at all.
What do you mean?
Observation, perception, concentration, all those sort of things.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Well, anyway, congratulations for winning. It's good that you win occasionally, because otherwise people get bored. Because we had a couple of tweets earlier in the week saying winners and losers is so boring because it's always the same result.
No,
so now that
that's not true at all.
Now that I've finally got some competition, perhaps we can have a bit of an exciting kind of final flourish into the end of the season.
Oh, we will. Don't you worry about that. Now, listen.
I'm leading by 3, and there's about 6 weekends left.
Well, I think it's going to be a very exciting competition.
I think it will.
As you're right to say. Now, listen, the story that leaps off the pages and smacks me right between the eyes, and one which is going to grow and grow and grow. If I see a story about Manchester United with Neil Custis' name on it, Neil Custis being a very old mate of mine, the fat man, and that's not us being rude. That was
no, that's quoting Louis van Gaal.
Louis van Gaal.
Well, that's how he's known around Old Trafford, isn't it?
Oh yeah, in the press conference.
They don't talk about him in any other way.
No, referred to him as the fat man.
Yeah,
and that's what he is. He didn't help himself by going on to a news programme the following Sunday and stuffing croissants into his mouth.
Oh, really?
Just
I didn't see that.
To build up the.
But the following day, after he'd been accused of being the fat man, did he not say that he was trying to lose weight and he did a piece of the Sun about how he was on some weight loss?
Yeah, it was rather strange, really. First of all, he made a joke of it by stuffing croissants in his face, and then called Louis van Gaal crass, trite, silly, insulting. So I wasn't sure whether he was offended by it or not. But anyway, the point of the story is...
Yeah, what is the point of the story?
Neil has an impeccable record for getting things right at Old Trafford. A year ahead of Ronaldo leaving and going back to Real Madrid.
Which is probably what annoys Van Gaal more than anything.
It probably does. He boldly went into print and said Ronaldo's leaving, and he was derided by all the football community and Manchester United and everybody else, all his competitors on the other papers. But in fact, he got it absolutely right. Well, he says here tonight, and this is so interesting... Do the right thing. It's spelt W-R-I-T-E. So that means put something in writing.
W-R-I-T-E.
Yes.
Right.
Put something in writing, OK. Says Mourinho. Twitchy Jose Mourinho wants a written promise from Manchester United that he will be their new manager this summer. The special one as a verbal assurance it'll be the case, but Alex Ferguson publicly backed current boss Louis van Gaal.
Yeah.
Now, that was Fergie's big interview with Sky, wasn't it, this week?
Yeah, when you said that he wouldn't mention the name. The name didn't come up.
Well, the name of Mourinho never came up in the whole of that interview, and that was on for an hour, right? Yeah. But the name of Louis van Gaal did. And the other thing is, what you've got to remember here, Mike, you've got to put pieces of the jigsaw together, and I'm very good at this, right?
Are you?
I have been trying to remind people for a long time that 2 years ago, or 3 years ago now, when David Moyes...
your old mucker.
My old mucker, was given the job...
Do you still speak to him?
Sorry?
Do you still speak to him?
Sometimes.
Do you?
Sometimes, yeah. But I'll get into that later.
Yeah.
But the point is, when
take the time, by the way.
Don't worry about this. When Sir Alex Ferguson first stepped down, Jose Mourinho was working abroad and would have been cited as a favourite to go, except the fact that Sir Bobby Charlton said in a newspaper interview, which he gives very rarely, we don't want his sort round here. Now, that had a great influence at the time. That's why David Moyes went there.
Well, Bobby Charlton just had a stand named after him.
Well, I'm just about to say to you, isn't it remarkable that this story comes out, doubts now about Mourinho going to Manchester United, a few days after the most emotional ceremony we've seen at Manchester United for a very long time, in which Sir Bobby Charlton had a stand named after him, as anointed now.
The thing that amazed me about that was when Van Gaal was interviewed about it afterwards, and he said, oh, yeah, it's great, Bobby Charlton pops in and out of the dressing room all the time.
I know, yeah.
I can't imagine you'd want that to happen if you were a manager,
I don't think he means he pops in and out and starts lecturing the players on how they're playing.
Well,
I think he means he's around. I think
you want to be in the zone, don't you, when you're in the playing scenario?
He's a pretty inspirational character, Sir Bobby Charlton, to any young footballer, and I think that's the way he meant it, yeah.
Well,
but what I was going to say is, I mean, if Sir Bobby Charlton still has the view that Jose Mourinho is bad news, then maybe, people are now listening to Sir Bobby Charlton again, in light of a bit of a revival.
Certainly, I've always believed that Woodward doesn't know what he's doing.
Van Gaal.
Woodward does not know what he's doing.
You may be right.
If he would make up his mind, then he would hire Jose Mourinho.
So,
would he not?
So you would, yeah?
I would, and I think you would as well.
Would.
But he would not. This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
That boy needs therapy. Psychosomatic. That boy needs therapy. Psychosomatic. That boy needs therapy. Lie down on the couch. What does that mean? You're a nut.
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. Mark Donaldson's going to join us from ESPN a little bit later on this hour to talk about that great game last night. Did you see it?
Yeah, he can tell us.
Fantastic.
I saw bits of it. Yeah. I was busy reading some of my journals at the time. But I hope he gets into that and tell us exactly what went on in the Barcelona Atletico Madrid
I can tell you exactly what went on because I saw all of it.
Well, I saw it as well. I saw the highlights of it afterwards.
But I saw the whole game and watched it live.
Yeah, OK, good for you. Oh, what a hero you are. You watched a game live for the first time in your life. Yeah, let's all tell the audience about that. That's fantastic, isn't it?
Need to be nasty.
No, I'm not being nasty,
mate.
Actually,
this is the first time in my life. I watched live games quite a lot.
Yeah.
It so happens it was in the free BT channel. That's why I watched it live. Anyway, this is from
guess what I'm reading here?
What?
Guess what I'm reading here?
I have no idea what you're reading.
Ooh, listen to this.
Go on.
Aston Villa want Andy Townsend to make a surprise return to the club as director of football. Former fans' favourite Townsend, 52, spent 4 years at Villa, has been approached by Supremo Steve Hollis about joining the new-look team.
Yeah.
Wow-wee!
Well, why don't you get hold of him and we'll find out if he's going to take the job.
Well, I think I should.
He's meant to be your mate, isn't he?
He's my mate.
Well,
He's
you say he is.
mate. Yeah, what do you mean?
Do you think he'll give you some kind of position there? You could be head of communications.
I think I'd prefer director, if you don't mind.
Director of communications.
Yeah.
You could be the final nail in the coffin for Aston Villa, you could.
That's right, yeah.
Just when everything was going so well, suddenly Porky arrives.
That's right, the rebuilding job was doing brilliantly until somebody put a breeze block in the foundations.
And suddenly there was a lot of stories appearing in the paper about Aston Villa, which nobody could explain.
Absolutely.
Now, listen to this from Mark, who's tweeted at the Two Mics. He says, maybe Porky would win winners and losers a bit more if there weren't so much endless gloating whenever he does win.
Oh, I don't gloat. I'm not a gloater.
Hackman says this, enjoy it, Porky, because it will be your last win on winners and losers. How many times did you vote for yourself?
I think not. Listen, let me tell you something.
Yeah, go on.
You know that Stones exhibition?
What, John Stones?
No, the Rolling Stones, you idiot.
Oh, I thought it was some kind of Everton exhibition.
No. You know that the Rolling Stones exhibition is a massive thing. It's at the Saatchi Gallery.
Yeah, so I believe.
In Southwest 3. Where's Southwest 3?
Southwest 3 is sort of Pimlico way,
Pimlico, is it? Okay. Oh, yeah, is it on the... the
embankment?
River? Yeah, the embankment, yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, OK. It was
down by the Tate, that way.
The Tate, that's right. Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of. It's got a big flag outside, doesn't it?
Not far from Spy headquarters, River House.
That's right, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, look, I read a review of it, and it says it's brilliant. It says that this really does take you back to the 60s and how it all started, and, very historical.
Maybe you should go and review it.
Yeah, I think I will. I think I will try and do that.
That could be, different to Porky Vision.
Yes, that's right.
One week you could do a review of the Rolling Stones show.
Yeah, I might do that. Right. Now then, we've got lots of important things to talk about, right?
I've got lots more things to read out to you here.
Oh, OK, do that.
This one is from Jim. I find it hilarious that Porky is so triumphalist in accepting any victory he sporadically stumbles upon in winners and losers, yet cries like a baby when more often he loses, with shouts of cheat and gerrymandering.
Oh, no,
what a plank.
That's not fair. I take it... I take it the way that Rudyard Kipling said you should take it.
Rudyard.
Yeah, Rudyard. What did he say? He said, take victory and take defeat and treat each of those imposters as the same.
Something like that.
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
You've already had a couple of goes at that, haven't you?
I know, yeah.
How about this from Gary?
Yeah.
He says, I want to thank you guys. He says, I just drove from New York City to Dallas and back, 3,200 miles.
You are joking.
And he says, your podcast got me through.
Good
Brilliant.
God.
Imagine that.
What a journey that is.
Did I ever tell you that story about the famous London news editor when I was working for a certain paper, which may or may not remain nameless, but we may name it later.
Right.
When it was in the middle of the distillers scandal. Remember the Guinness distillers scandal?
Yes, I do, yeah.
In the sort of late 80s.
Yeah.
And the guy
What's his name? Ernest Saunders.
Ernest Saunders,
Saunders,
Well, there was some guy who was very key to the whole thing.
Right.
Who was in America, right? And I tracked him down to Dallas.
Yes.
And I had to decide what they, he lived in New York, I think, but he was in Dallas for a couple of days.
Yeah.
So I rang the desk and I said, look, I can either go and get him in Dallas, or you can wait for him to come back to New York, because the paper wasn't publishing for another sort of 3 days or something.
It was a Sunday paper, yeah.
No, it wasn't. No, it was today, actually.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
But they hadn't launched yet. This was for the launch edition.
Blimey, yeah.
And so I got hold of the news editor.
Yeah.
And
he
Colin? It was Colin,
Colin Miley,
yeah, it was him, yeah. And he said, right, let me have a word with the editor. So about an hour later, he calls me back.
Who was David, was it? Montgomery.
Montgomery, that's right. Actually, no, I don't know if it was then.
Yeah, I think it was. Oh, no, it could have been...
No, I think it was Brian Thingy.
That's right, Brian MacArthur.
That's it, yeah, Brian MacArthur, who didn't have a clue.
That's right,
and, anyway, so he rings me back and he goes, he said, we've made a decision. He said, we want you to go down to Dallas.
Yes.
What time's the next train?
And
I went, what? And I said, well,
yeah.
I don't know what time the next train is. I said, if I get on a train, it's going to take me about 4 days to get there. I said, I recommend taking a plane.
Yes,
and he went, oh, yes, I see what you mean.
That'll take 2 hours.
I couldn't believe it.
3 hours, yeah.
I could not believe it.
No, it's strange, isn't it?
This is a guy that ended up being editor of the New York Daily News.
He did, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Via the News of the World.
And needless to say, I went to Dallas.
Yes.
And we got the pictures, which were then transmitted for the first time in glorious Technicolor.
Colour, yeah.
And
they called that Shah Vision.
It looked like somebody was shaking it on the by the time
it was Shah's revolution to bring in colour presses to Fleet Street.
It was.
And he had a huge battle with the unions at Warrington, which was their printing plants, Warrington in Cheshire.
That's right.
And eventually they got it, but the technology hadn't been quite perfected. And, and it had about 16 reverberating lines down the side.
But it was at the time. It was a great newspaper.
Yeah, of course
for bringing colour in, because because of course everybody at the time was saying, oh, nobody wants a colour newspaper. You want it all in black and white.
Oh yeah.
And it was very successful. It was a great exclusive, actually.
Sorry,
a very great exclusive.
Well,
I'm surprised you don't remember it.
What was the great line he told you then? That was the great
exclusive? I can't remember
exclusive?
what it was now.
No, you can't. So it's such a big exclusive, such a massive story.
Well, I've done so many of them.
You can't even remember it.
I've done so many of them. Unlike you, I did them by actually speaking to people rather than making it up.
I've never made anything up in my life.
Really?
And if you continue to repeat that, I will have to refer you to my legal counsel.
Your legal counsel, who are already rammed with complaints.
They're not rammed with any complaints.
What about the Nureyev interview?
The Nureyev interview? Yeah, what about it?
You didn't make any of that up?
There was only me and him in the room.
That's what I mean.
So any allegation about that, and there are only two of us
in
in the
room.
room.
He's unfortunately deceased.
Yeah, one of us is now dead.
Yeah, one of you.
And that's not me. At least I don't think it is. And
one of us is now dead.
And it was a world exclusive interview on Rudy Norris.
What was the best line in it?
It was something like this. But I knew what he was trying to say.
Yeah, I know.
Do you know what I mean?
But what did you turn it into, though?
That's the advantage of being a world-experienced journalist. You can always interpret what people are trying to say to you.
But what did you turn it into?
I have no regrets in my life.
Yeah.
I could hear. I had my ear to his face. You know what I mean?
Of course.
So I knew it was going on. That was a real humdinger. When it Barcelona, Atletico Madrid.
Absolutely.
Torres got himself sent off after 35 minutes.
I can't understand why he did that.
And Suarez should have been sent off, shouldn't he?
He should have been, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, he lashed out with his foot, a defender, and then sort of gave him a hug so that he wouldn't fall over.
Yeah.
But apparently the referee didn't see it. And seemingly, from what I understand, no matter how many times the officials after the game look at that, they probably aren't going to do anything about it.
No,
whereas if it happened in the Premier League, you'd probably get some kind of violent conduct charge
well, I'm sure
after the fact, wouldn't you?
Retrospectively.
But you have to say, I mean, Diego Simeone, who is a sort of man possessed at these times. I mean, he just got it wrong, really. Yeah. He got them all too fired up. And because I think if Torres had stayed on, they probably would have won.
Can you get a team too fired up?
I think he can.
Well, it's better than being old. What's Villa's ex-boss called? The Frenchman,
Remy Gard.
It's better than being so somnolent and so dull and uninspiring that actually your team got twice as bad as they were when you first started there over the course of how many months? 6 months? Over the course of 6 months?
6 months.
They were twice as bad at the end. They were at the beginning.
They were.
So it was a good job there for Andy Townsend to get stuck into. Do you not think?
I think no. Well, if Andy Townsend fancies the job, I mean, they'll be in the Championship by the time he takes it, presumably.
Well,
yes,
they will
do that.
Well,
I suppose it depends on how much filthy lucre's on offer.
I worked with Andy for years, and
if you can do that, you can do anything.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, he captained Villa to 2 League Cup victories at Wembley.
Yeah.
Waving that League Cup around and around the old Wembley. That's quite something, that. And he's a legendary figure at the club, so I'm sure he'd do a brilliant job.
Here's one directed at you, right?
Yeah.
To Mr. Parry from Michael, who's a Man United fan. He says, how do you put up with Mike Graham saying, have you seen the time when you're talking? It's very rude. Maybe we're interested.
Well,
maybe you are. Maybe you should have a look at what apostrophes are supposed to be for.
No, I wouldn't worry about it. To everybody out there, when I am clearly on top of the argument, that is old MG's defensive slogan. Have you seen the time? Have you seen the time? What it means is I'm saying things that he can't keep up with, and he's trying to get out of the argument.
No, when I say have you seen the time, it means that there is a time frame for the show, and that there are certain points at which we have to stop talking and let something else happen. Here's one from Pete. He says, a few months ago, Porky was guaranteeing Mourinho going to Man United. Is he changing his story now?
No, I'm not changing my story, and if I was running Manchester United, he would have been appointed months ago. But, I mean, the interesting thing is, which I heard somebody say earlier on, so this is not my unique thought or my original thought, is that Chelsea and which other club have announced their new managers for the end of the season? Chelsea and...
Well, Manchester City.
And Manchester City, obviously. Manchester City and Chelsea have announced that the incumbent in their dugout is leaving at the end of the season by mutual agreement with us all, and we have a new superstar manager coming in. Chelsea have done that, City have done that. Why have Manchester United not done that?
Well, you may well ask. Maybe because they haven't decided, as I said, because Edward Woodward is not a man who makes a decision very, very cleverly and very quickly, unfortunately. They should have sorted this out a long time ago.
Exactly.
And in the end, they will not get Mourinho if this is how it all goes.
That's right.
Anyway, lots more to tell you, lots more tweets and text to read out. Of course, it's Ask Porky tonight as well. If you haven't had a question answered or a problem solved, now's your chance. And text us at 81089. Tweet us at the Two Mics. Find us on Facebook as well. This is TalkSport.
UEFA Champions League football live on TalkSport.
Come on!
Tonight from 7, join Mark Saggers for another nail-biting night of European football.
It's a goal!
Don't miss uninterrupted full-match commentary of Paris Saint-Germain versus Manchester City.
What a goal!
UEFA Champions League football live on TalkSport with Direct Line Van Insurance. For de facto 5-star rated van insurance, search Direct Line Van.
Are you ready for the Grand National? Betfair are paying 5 places on the big race. Plus, we're giving all new customers money back as a free bet if their horse doesn't finish. Get ready for the off and visit Betfair today. Betfair. Tap, tap, boom. Places paid at quarter odds. Applies to win and win part of each way singles. First bet per race qualifies. Free bet stakes not returned. Exclusions and terms at betfair.com. 18 plus gambleaware.co.uk.
We took the all-new Mitsubishi L200 Series 5 across the globe for 18 days and 4,267 miles. We conquered the Sahara Desert and the Atlas Mountains to show the world the most manoeuvrable, economic, efficient, safest and capable pickup we've ever made. The Mitsubishi L200 Series 5, showing the world how it's done.
Search Mitsubishi L200 and take on the world.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. Ask Porky coming up a little bit later on, of course. Hey, by the way, we didn't really get around to discussing this yesterday, but should we not do a quiz on Bobby Charlton this week?
Oh, I suggested that last night.
Well, I know you did, but we didn't really talk about it.
Well, we should talk about it. I mean, Sir Bobby Charlton had a stand named after him. He is, I would say now, the elder statesman of English football, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
And I think, as we're going to Manchester this weekend as well, Dance House, Saturday night.
Indeed.
Almost a sell-out, but a few tickets left, kids, if you get in quick on the old ticket line there. Yeah. It's going to be a night of bladderation.
Chance to see the Porkmeister live.
And
see
yourself,
whether seeing is believing. Yes.
And yourself, of
course.
I'll
be there, yeah.
And as that's Manchester-based, yes, I would say the quiz on Friday morning this week will be Sir Bobby Charlton, Life and Times, Career of. Okay?
Now, I just want to read you this text from the Flying Scotsman, he calls himself.
Oh, OK.
MG and Porky, can you give a shout-out to Glasgow Rangers on our promotion to the Scottish Premier League, back to where we belong?
Yes.
We, as the fans, have had a long, hard 4 years with everything going on regarding owners, etc. We have fought our way back. We are the people. This is surely one of the proudest moments as a Jazz fan. A great show, guys. Keep up the good work.
Well, I have to say, it has been a miserable 4 years for those Rangers fans, hasn't it? I try always to put myself in the shoes of those fans who've gone through that. Have your team literally booted into the bottom tier of football in your country, then having to work your way back up.
And not come back as quickly as perhaps
I was about to say, to have a stumble in the Championship and not even get back up, you know, when they're such a big club. Problem is, there's no money in Scottish football, television-wise. So,
but part of the reason for that, people say, is because Rangers dropped out of the top division, and so there's no more old firm stuff to get going with.
The money was cut before then.
The
money was cut before then.
But, I mean, you'll get a bigger, much bigger television audience now.
Of course you will,
for those games.
Yeah, of course you will. That's absolutely right. And yet some people said, well, it rebalanced football in Scotland and you know, made the other leagues very exciting, really, because Rangers were in town and that kind of stuff. But anyway, they're back now, as you quite rightly say, and you'll have to see how it goes.
Well, I'm sure Mark Donaldson will have a view on that.
I'm sure he will. Now, you know, we played Layla just there to come back into the show.
Yes.
Now, this is because, and you get these sort of things happening all the time in the world of pop music, but a woman has suddenly popped up and said, I wrote part of Layla, but I never got any credit for it.
Oh, who's that?
This lady is called Rita Coolidge.
Oh, Rita Coolidge?
Yeah, I think I've heard of her before.
Rita Coolidge is a very well-known singer.
Is she?
Yeah.
Yeah, OK, yeah. Right, so Rita Coolidge says Clapton used the chords and melody from a song she played him at London's Olympic Studios in 1970.
All right.
She said that they were all in the studio jamming, and she came across him, and she had a guitar and all that. She played it, and he just sort of said, "Oh, that's quite nice." And
but
then,
I mean, the song itself is many more sort of layers than just that one riff, isn't it? Because that's a slow bit at the end, which they used to such great effect in Goodfellas, you know, when all the bodies are turning up.
That's right, yeah, absolutely. Now, the thing is, you're right, she is quite well known, Rita Coolidge. She's actually a Grammy Award-winning singer.
Yeah, I know that.
And she says she only realised he'd appropriated her music when she heard Layla on the radio once it was released, you know?
Yeah.
The reason this is coming out now is because she's just written her autobiography.
She's written a memoir, hasn't she?
Called Delta Lady, yeah.
Apparently she was going out with Clapton's drummer, a guy called Jim Gordon.
Oh, was she?
Yeah.
Oh, I see, OK. So she says, I think it's time everybody knew that Layla also has a mother.
Yeah.
She asked Clapton's manager, the late Robert Stigwood, remember him?
Yes.
We talked about him on the show a few months ago.
The Bee Gees, or reshot the Bee Gees.
The man who reshot the Bee Gees and sailed his yacht up the River Thames and had to open London Bridge. Tower Bridge, I beg your pardon. So she says that when she asked Clapton's manager, late Robert Stigwood, for a credit, he told her, get lost. Literally. He said, you're a girl singer, what are you going to do about it?
Shocking.
So released in 1971, Layla was officially written by just Clapton. That's what it says on the credits.
Right.
When he was lead singer of Derek and the Dominoes. Well, I mean, he was the only person in Derek and the Dominoes,
wasn't it? That was his sort of fictitious band, wasn't it?
Exactly. He had a few, like, session musicians.
It was his version of Ziggy Stardust.
But you're absolutely right. It says he conceded later that it came with the help of Jim Gordon, the drummer for Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young.
That's the guy that was Clapton's drummer as well, and so she was you know, his boyfriend.
That's right, yeah. It was supposedly inspired, this is the folklore of that record, it was supposedly inspired by Pattie Boyd, wasn't it? The woman who married not just Eric Clapton, but George Harrison
as well. Well, she's always claiming that she wrote half of George Harrison's songs.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, there's a lot of this going on.
Yeah. So anyway, it became one of Clapton's greatest anthems and is 27th on the Rolling Stones list of the 500 greatest songs of all time, OK? But Miss Coolidge, who is now 70, isn't it a shame that, you know, rock chicks get to the age of 70? Isn't it?
Well, I suppose it's just the way life is, isn't it?
Do you know what else I found which really stunned me and depressed me a bit yesterday?
You? Yeah. What was that?
Agnetha Faltstock.
Your birth certificate?
No, Agnetha Faltstock. From ABBA, was 66 yesterday.
She's the blonde one.
She's the blonde one. She was blonde.
She still looks pretty good for 66, doesn't she?
Well, I suppose, yeah, she looks all right, I suppose, 66. But you'd like to remember her as this vibrant, young, blonde, Swedish bombshell who took over the world, don't you, really? But anyway, she says that in 1970 she was a backing singer for the man Gordon's band, you know, Jim Gordon, the drummer.
Yeah. It turns out he was a schizophrenic.
Who?
this guy Jim Gordon.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Anyway, one day, she and Gordon co-wrote a song called Time. The subtitle was Don't Let the World Get in Our Way.
Yes.
They met Clapton in London soon after. She said, Eric listened to me play it all the way through, says Miss Coolidge. I left a tape cassette of the demo with Eric, hoping he might cover it, but nothing ever came of it. A year later, I was doing a photo shoot for my first album when I heard Layla on the radio. I was absolutely infuriated. What they'd clearly done was take the song Jim and I had written, jettison the lyrics, and tracked it to the end of Eric's song. Last night, nobody for Mr. Clapton was available for comment. So she really does believe he nicked the song.
Well, I mean, if she does believe that, surely she should have said something before now.
Do you think, because I have always had the suspicion, that Eric Clapton is the most overrated living pop star today?
No, he's a fantastic guitarist. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, but everybody says that, and they call him Slowhand, because that's a joke on the fact that his hands move very quickly over the guitar strings. But
why do they call him Slowhand, then, if it's about him being quick?
Because they're being ironic, Mike. You know, there's a thing called irony. You know what I mean? Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, a bit like you saying that, you know, you're a better broadcaster than Laurence Olivier as an actor. What are you going to say now?
No, I don't think
you're a better
that,
broadcaster. Yes, you did. Are you also now going to say...
well, I'll stand by that, then. If I said that.
It's all about, are you now a better broadcaster than Eric Clapton is a blues guitarist?
Well, no, I'm not saying that. But, I mean, OK, so he was in Cream with Ginger Baker and Jim Capaldi, is that right?
Blind Faith he was in as well.
He was in Blind Faith, was he? Who was the third member of Cream?
Eh?
Was it Jim Capaldi?
Well, who have you said? It was Jack Baker, but Jack Bruce, wasn't it?
Jack Bruce. Oh, that's right. Jack Bruce, Ginger Baker, Eric Clapton.
Yeah.
Now, did they make any decent songs?
Yeah, of course they did.
Go on, name
Sunshine of Your Love.
OK,
which is also in The Goodfellas.
OK, that's one. Now then, he then...
Well, it's quite a good one. If that was the only song you ever wrote in your life, you'd be happy.
But what I'm saying is, I mean, you know, when you talk about Lennon McCartney, David Bowie, Richards and Jagger and Richards and all that, these guys have catalogues.
Well, I mean, as a songwriter, I would say he's not in that area.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
That's not what we're talking about. But he's a fantastic guitarist.
You know, I mean, he made some real bum songs, didn't he?
Like what?
Like Cocaine.
You don't like that one?
Cocaine.
Well, apparently...
Well, he sounds like he's on cocaine when he's making it.
Well, he probably was. One of the things Rita Coolidge has said in her book, which is the bit you've missed out on, is that the reason she broke up with Jim Gordon is because he basically flipped out because they were all doing so much cocaine. And he attacked her one night, slammed her against the wall, punched her, right?
Oh, I don't agree with that.
Well, of course you don't agree with it, but it turns out he was a paranoid schizophrenic. He was undiagnosed. The drugs set him off. He then later went on to murder his own mother with a hammer and a carving knife.
Blimey, did he end up in jail?
Yeah, he's now serving a life sentence in a psychiatric prison in California.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Good God, that's an amazing, remarkable story.
Yeah, I know.
I didn't know about
Amazing
that.
you didn't know about that one.
I didn't know about that one.
Yeah.
Now, what I was going to say...
So you spent a bit more time researching the story.
Another song Eric Clapton wrote was...
Lay Down Sally, yeah? What's wrong with that?
Well, that's like a nursery rhyme.
It's a very...
I said, lay down, Sally.
Well, there's a lot of Beatles songs that are like nursery rhymes. I mean, when I'm 64...
But when I'm 64... hundreds of songs.
Yeah, but they were songwriters. Eric Clapton's not really a songwriter.
That's what I'm saying. So why is he so,
Because he's a brilliant guitarist. Why do you think the Beatles brought him in on While My Guitar Gently Weeps into the studio in Abbey Road while they were making that song?
I'm not sure they did.
Yes, they did.
Are you sure about this?
Yes, I'm very sure. George Harrison brought him up from his house in Surrey and said, why don't you come in and play the lead guitar because they knew that he was a better guitarist than they were.
Well, OK, so he's a good guitarist, that's fair enough. But, I mean, I don't think he's a musical legend as such.
Well, I think he is.
I think he's also... I mean, I've read a bit of...
You're just unbelievably naive when it comes to culture.
No, I've read a book which said...
Have you? I don't believe you've ever read a book.
That said when Eric Clapton...
If it's not been serialised in the Daily Mail, you've not read it.
When Eric Clapton was on tour in Australia... They had to give all the money back to all the fans who came to his concert.
Why?
Because he was so smashed out of his face on drink and drugs that he ended up lying under the piano.
Well, he was a junkie.
And complaining that he was in prison and he was confused about things.
Well, the guy was on heroin.
Yeah, he was, that's right, yeah.
He took a lot of drugs.
Funny enough, I think his biggest claim to fame was that he beat heroin, right, after being a heroin addict for 5 years, but the consequence of beating heroin was he then became an alcoholic for another 10 years.
Right.
So
he's clean now.
So it wasn't really such a great way to...
I don't know why you've got it in for Eric Clapton. I think Eric Clapton's a magnificent British musician, and I think you should be proud of him. Instead of slagging him off for some reason, which I can't find in any way any reason for.
I don't know if he is a legend, you see. I think he made a couple of good records and he could play the guitar a bit, and that's it.
OK, well, shall we see what we can find out about him to give you more of a sort of a handle on musical history?
Let's do that.
Mate, I'm surprised you haven't got his greatest hits. This is Talk Sport.
Oh, it's very good, yeah.
You like that?
Oh, yeah, I knew that song.
But he's not a musical legend.
Look, OK, I'll tell you something else then. Right. Tell you what else we could talk about. You know the guy, you know the song Something in the Air?
Yeah.
Thunderclap Newman?
No, I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about Eric Clapton.
You just said,
about Eric Clapton
you just said, that one song. You pointed out one song, OK, and said he must be a legend just for writing that.
Right.
Well, Thunderclap Newman wrote one song.
Yeah,
it was called Something in the Air.
Doesn't make him a legend.
Why doesn't it make him a legend?
Because I'll tell you why.
It's one of the most iconic singles of the pop era.
Really? Did he get to number one?
It did get number one for 8 weeks.
Has he won a BAFTA for Best Original Television Music for a movie?
No, not to my knowledge.
Has he won 3 Grammy Awards in the same year for one song? Song of the Year, Record of the Year, and Male Pop Vocal Performance.
And what was that song?
That was for Tears in Heaven, the song that Eric Clapton wrote about the death of his son.
Very sadly, I mean, there was a very emotional song, that, and I think there was a wave of emotion which surrounded Eric Clapton at the time.
An officer of the Order of the British Empire.
Who?
Your bloke. Thunderclap Newman. Yeah.
Well, no, he wasn't, because he wrote one song, but you just said...
Has he been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Not to my knowledge.
Oh, right. Was he promoted to Commander of the Order of the British Empire?
Well, again, I think not.
No. Did he get the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award?
What are you asking me all these stupid questions for?
Well, because you're comparing
apples
and pears.
Only an idiot, only a complete
idiot would come out with some of the guff that you come out with.
Only a complete idiot goes and asks a string of questions to somebody when they already know the answers. Yeah. I don't know why you're asking me all those stupid questions.
No, I know you don't. That's why I'm asking you them.
Yeah, Andy Thunderclap Newman.
Can we talk to Mark Donaldson now, please?
An eccentric pianist who gave his name to the group that had the biggest hit of the 60s with Something in the Air, has died.
So does that make him better than the Beatles, then?
Well, it makes him... No, it does make him better than the Beatles, you idiot, but it makes him very significant.
Biggest hit of the 60s.
Makes him very significant.
Not really.
He was working as a telephone engineer. How about that?
Yeah, great.
When he wrote this song.
I wish you were.
Well, I wish you would just sometimes push off.
Can we talk to Mark Donaldson now, please?
Yeah, let's do that.
Thank you very much. Mark, a very good morning to you.
I thought I was on with the two mics, not itchy and scratchy.
Yeah, that's quite right, Mark. Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, Porky won winners and losers this week, so he's a bit more ebullient than usual, so you'll have to be careful that he doesn't talk over every single word that you say. But what a fantastic game of football we should start off with, Barcelona against Atletico Madrid.
Wasn't it? I thought for a spell in the first half, even some people might say the referee did lose control, but it's niggly, isn't it? And when these sides have met in the league as well, I remember the Champions League game 2 or 3 years ago, and it was niggly then.
Right.
Doesn't it set it up for the second leg perfectly next week?
Yeah, I think it'd be absolutely amazing. I mean, Diego Simeone, as you know, goes that far, that close to the edge. This time, I think he just kind of got it slightly wrong, didn't he? He got poor old Fernando Torres wound up to a ridiculous degree.
Yeah, and I know I watched him when Torres got sent off, and he's basically saying it was only his second foul. It doesn't matter if both of them are yellow cards. I think there has to be a bit more common sense shown by Torres. You could argue that the referee was more lenient towards some of the challenges. I mean, Busquets put a tackle in. I know he was later booked, but the first one could easily have been a yellow card. And I don't know if it spoiled it, because it's over 2 legs, it's only half-time, and it's all to play for. And if you remember 2 or 3 years ago, when Atletico Madrid had the second leg at home in the quarter-final and won by a goal to nil, I think it was Koke that scored in the 5th minute, that was enough to see them through. The same would be the case this time. I tell you what I would have loved to have seen. We all see Diego Simeone, but his assistant, a former goalkeeper by the name of Herman Burgos, and Jose Mourinho and him had many spats. If he gets the free-for-all, he'd be swinging punches galore. So it's set itself up lovely for a second leg in 7 days' time. It really has.
It really does, yeah. But also, again, when you watch that kind of game, you do realise that there's quite a lot of difference, is there not, between, and I think a growing difference between the style of play in the Premier League and in the Champions League.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting, a German interpretation of that all-Spanish clash. And the reason I mentioned the Germans is that's where the referee was from. And I think what you find as well, sometimes you see the Northern European officials maybe let players away with more. And Felix Breitsch, the referee, was okay. As far as the styles are concerned, I thought it was the worst possible draw for Barcelona. I think they would rather have Real Madrid than Atletico Madrid. I know they lost to them at the weekend, but Atleti know how to play them. And Atletico Madrid's style is very different. And it would be interesting for me if Diego Simeone was one day a coach in the Premier League, and whether he adapted the same kind of style as he's got with Atletico Madrid, or if Diego Simeone came to one of the top clubs in England, I'm not sure you could play that style with one of the top clubs, because he's got that style with the players he's got at Atletico Madrid, and it works really well. For me, it would be interesting to see him at a top English club and maybe have to change the style, because I don't think that style of play would be suited to a team like Man City or Chelsea or Arsenal, one of the teams that try and play a bit of football in the Premier League.
Tell me, Mark, is Torres now completely restored as one of Europe's leading strikers?
No.
And did we let him go?
Terrific goal he scored,
exactly. Did we let him go from England too soon? Was it English management that let him down? Is he flourishing again now in his natural environment?
No, he's not, Mike, and I'll tell you why. I mean, I've seen a lot of him this season in Spain, and he's done reasonably well. But before he scored, I'm actually shouting at the TV because he gave away a couple of stupid balls that were simple passes to teammates, and I'm thinking to myself, Mike, as I'm watching that, this is a little boy lost, and no one knows. This is the big issue that I've got and everyone else seems to have as well. Yeah. Why does he look like that? Because when he was at Liverpool and other places as well, you're thinking to yourself, this guy's got the world at his feet. So what was it that happened that changed him? He took his goal well, granted. You don't suddenly lose that ability from one moment to the next.
Well, he did when he went to Chelsea. I'm sorry to interrupt. He did. For some unknown reason, he went from being the most lethal striker in Europe with 50 million quid to a complete dud when he put a blue shirt on.
Do you know why I think that was? He pulled his hamstring in the World Cup in 2010, right near the end of one of Spain's games. I don't know if you remember that. And I don't think he ever recovered from that.
Is that right, Mark?
I think it's just a mental thing, and Porky's right. There was this change that happened. Not one person on this planet has been able to get inside his head, Torres' head, and find out what the difference was before and what the difference was afterwards. He seemed fearless beforehand. He seemed to try things that would come off. But
he was also a lot quicker. That was what I think he lost because of that injury. He couldn't do those bursts of speed that he used to do.
Maybe it's that. Maybe it's the kind of onset of age, and as a result of the injury, not able to do what it was.
I mean, you ask Porky, he doesn't move as well as he did when he was the midfield dynamo of Chester Boys Grammar School. You know?
No, well, that's true, I don't, but I mean, that was a few years ago. Do you know what, Mark? The lifestyle thing, I think, got him as well, because he arrived at Liverpool on an EasyJet flight from Spain when he went to sign. I remember it. He arrived with his girlfriend, didn't even take his manager, and then when he moved to Chelsea... I know this sounds daft, but the aura of being superstar status, £50 million, Chelsea, richest club in the world at the time, Comrade Abramovich, he suddenly changed as a person, completely changed.
And I totally agree with that. But do you know what I thought? See, when he went back to Atleti, Porky, I thought to myself, this is somewhere where he was loved and he loved being as well.
Yes.
I just wondered if that would have been the catalyst for him to get back to the way he was at Liverpool. So whether it was a combination, as Mike Graham was saying, whether it was a combination of the injury and maybe the lack of pace that he now has compared to what he has, for me, it's one of the big questions over the last 2 or 3 years. What has happened to Fernando Torres?
Yeah, one of the great mysteries.
Well, he's going to miss the second leg, presumably, isn't he?
Yeah.
Which I think suits Atleti. I think it suits the way they're going to play, because there's no way they would have gone with two up front. I know that Yannick Ferreira Carrasco played in a kind of more forward role, but I think you'll see they'll string five across the middle of the park, and even if he was available, I think he would have been on the bench anyway for the second leg. So I don't think that's an issue.
And we're told, I think, and I don't know if you're hearing the same, that there's unlikely to be any kind of retrospective punishment for Suarez for his contretemps where he kicked that defender.
They don't seem to do that, UEFA, do they?
No,
they're not into retrospective, are they, Mark?
Yeah, and isn't it funny? The first thing he did after lashing out was kind of arm round the shoulder, kind of hug.
It's like he can't help himself, isn't it?
And whatever. He's a loose cannon, that boy.
He certainly is, but I mean, he won the game for Barcelona, because without him, I'm not sure it would have happened. Now, Manchester City play tonight against PSG. Obviously, everyone's hoping that they can keep the old flag flying for the Premier League, but
keep the red.
Not the red flag, no,
the
blue flag.
Yeah, light blue. Keep the light blue flag.
I don't think they'd want the red flag.
Blue, but light blue doesn't fit.
I know it doesn't. Let's think of a different song then.
Exactly.
But Joe Hart might play. I mean, they could. You never know with Manchester City what they're going to do. Really, I'm absolutely and utterly incapable of predicting a score.
I don't think anybody is. I think the key. I mean, going to Bournemouth at the weekend, but their away form this season has not been the best. Sergio Aguero's form away from home hasn't been the best. I just wonder if Kevin De Bruyne and his return is the catalyst for City to push on. Don't think they'll win the Premier League. Don't think they'll beat Paris Saint-Germain over two legs. But I think they're a much better team with Kevin De Bruyne in the side. And I think ultimately they'll probably go out to Paris Saint-Germain, but I think they're a better side, and I think Aguero's a better player when he's got the help from De Bruyne and Silva and others than he is without him.
OK, fine. Now, Mark, time is short, mate. I want to know,
very short.
Are you caught up in Masters fever where you are
Hang
at
on.
the moment?
Well, we're going to talk about Rangers.
We'll talk about Rangers in a minute. I want to talk about Masters fever.
Got a minute.
Well, we're talking about Masters fever.
Right.
Masters fever, Mark.
I wish I was there. I'm not.
Yeah.
And I'd be surprised if the winner did not come from the world's top 10. I think there's too many of them now that are pushing each other on. Your Jason Days, your Adam Scott, your Rory McIlroy.
Yeah.
If you want an outsider, Mark Leishman, because he's a bomber, the big Australian, and he obviously did well at the Open last year.
Oh, Leishman.
Phil's obviously got a chance, but don't be surprised if it's one of the big boys. You can get the big boys against the field odds against on Betfair. I'll be taking that bet.
Yeah, Leishman sounds a bit about like Dalglish. Now, I'm talking about Dalglish, of course. Celtic, Rangers back in the Scottish Premier League.
Dalglish was a Rangers fan when he grew up, so
I know he was.
You didn't mean that, but it was a tenuous link. I'll give you it, Paul.
Thank you. So, what do you think about Rangers?
I mean, it's the thing. It's the usual thing, right? We just said about half an hour ago, read out a text from someone saying it's great to be back. Cue all of the stuff like, you can't be back because the Rangers disappeared 4 years ago. I mean, when is all that going to end? Is it going to end?
Not. It's not, and that's the issue. Look, I'm a Hearts fan. I want the best teams in the top flight. Because I want it to be the most competitive top flight. I want to go to Ibrox. I want to go to Celtic Park. I want to go to Easter Road. But the problem is you've got this Celtic fans obsessed with Rangers saying, it's not the real Rangers, it's Sevco, it's this, it's the Rangers or not. Can we not just talk about the football? That's 3 years ago. We had those arguments. Why are we having those arguments now?
Well, because it's Glasgow. Because it's Glasgow. And
that's the problem, Porky. You've been up there.
Yeah. They'll never let it go.
No, they don't, and that's the issue. Look, Rangers have got 79 points.
Yep.
If anyone wants to talk about all the other, is it Rangers or whatever, if you want to go back 3 years, you're more than welcome, but please join the rest of us in present times and kind of modern times. Rangers have been the best team in that division. They deserve to be the champions, and Celtic fans privately would probably admit that they are happy that there'll be Rangers back in the Premier League next year because they'll probably beat them.
But
it all depends on what Rangers bring in and who Rangers bring in. They're 8-1 to win the league. That's the biggest they have been for decades next season. And they won't win the league because they'll need to add players.
They will need to add players, and they won't have the money to do that yet. But to be honest, 3 years in the space of time up in Glasgow and what the old firm talk about and moan about is hardly a drop in the ocean. This is Talk Sport.
Right.
Talk Sport, we are the two mics. It's Ask Porky. Coming up in the next hour, though, we're going to be talking to a cat behaviour specialist, Porky. I know you think all cats are evil.
Oh, they are.
But there's a police force in this country who thinks that they can use them to help fight crime.
Yes.
So we'll see about that. Also, quite a few people are sending in their views on what you said about Eric Clapton. Some of them, bizarrely, actually are agreeing with you.
Exactly.
Des says Mark Knopfler's a better guitarist than Clapton. He doesn't get the recognition he deserves. I don't think that's true. And also on the song Cocaine, that was actually written by J.J. Cale. Says Russ in Birkenhead, amongst others.
Right.
And he performed it well before Clapton.
Yeah, I was on here from CCL. He says, I agree with Mike Parry. What has Eric Clapton sung? Hardly a legend, in my opinion. I always mix him up with Chris Rea.
Well, if he mixes him up with Chris Rea, then he's really not a very knowledgeable person on the subject of
Chris
music.
Rea, I think, made more, iconic records than Eric Clapton. Wouldn't you say The Road to Hell is one of the most iconic records of all time?
No, it's a
I
pop
certainly
song.
would.
It's a pop song.
Well, what do you think Eric Clapton wrote?
He wrote a lot of very, very interesting songs, but we'll talk about it later because we haven't got enough time at the moment. Your ignoramus status on this is shocking.
The Barclays Premier League on Talk Sport. 100% football all weekend, every weekend.
Oh my word, he's put it beyond the goalkeeper.
Saturday afternoon from 5, Manchester City versus West Brom.
Craig Gardner has scored!
Sunday from 1, Sunderland versus Leicester.
Robert Huth! Oh, Robert Huth for Leicester!
Plus, around the grounds with live reports from every game throughout the season. Official partner of the Barclays Premier League. Talk Sport.
It's Talk Sport. We are the two mics. Lots and lots of people were tweeting and texting in on the subject of Eric Clapton.
Yes.
Here's a couple.
Yeah.
One from Phil in Durham. He says Something in the Air isn't in the top 60 best-selling singles of the 60s. Where does Mike Thunderclap Parry get his facts from?
Oh, well,
Probably his Ministry of Misinformation.
In the list I saw,
or his music
it was listed
journals.
as the biggest selling song of 1969. And
well, that's 1 year.
Yeah, and in the top 50
You said it was the
during
biggest
60s.
selling song of the 60s.
It was.
Yeah, well, you just said 69. It's not the same.
No. It came out in 69. That is in the 60s. Okay?
No, I know, but you said it was the best-selling song in the 60s.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Well,
and I stand by that.
Well, no, it's the best-selling song in 1969. It's not the same thing.
Yeah, but 1969 was in the 60s.
Yes,
so if
do you
it
not
sold,
understand the difference?
If it sold more records in 1969 than any other record in all the other years in the 60s, it can still be the biggest selling song in the 60s.
No, it's saying...
Yes, it can, you thickhead.
It's
Come on,
saying,
get your facts right.
Well, no, it's saying that it was the biggest-selling song of 1 year. That doesn't make it the biggest-selling song of the decade.
No, I'm sorry. It's got two classifications: biggest selling song of '69 and biggest selling song of the '60s.
So you're saying it is the biggest selling song of the '60s.
Yes.
Okay, well I'll have to check that out.
Right.
Here's one from Ian, who says Rita Coolidge was a great singer. Get the vinyl of her LP Anytime Anywhere from 1976. A really good album.
Anytime, anywhere?
Anytime, anywhere, yes.
Anytime, anywhere. Is that how it goes? No, I don't think it does.
No, I don't think it does go
right. Okay.
And then here's one from someone who doesn't give a name. Richie Blackmore of Deep Purple said that Eric Clapton cannot play the guitar. Well, I don't believe that.
Who said that? Richie
Blackmore.
Of
he was in Deep Purple, but he left Deep Purple because he couldn't get on with anyone, and he started his own band called Rainbow.
Oh, yeah.
And he was a very good guitarist, but I don't think that he's not the same kind of guitarist as Eric Clapton.
Yeah.
And I would be amazed if he said that.
You would be amazed.
And Kenny says the bit at the end of Layla was played by Dwayne Allman.
Dwayne Allman?
Allman, yeah.
Who was Dwayne Allman?
Well, he's one of the Allman brothers.
Ah, the Allman brothers. Now, what did they say?
He did a song called Jessica.
Jessica.
You'll remember it if you hear it. We'll maybe play it coming out of the next break. No, that's not it. No.
Oh, okay. Right, okay. Anyway, look, it's all good stuff because... now, I'll tell you what. Let me just tell you a little bit more about Thunderclap Newman because it's so interesting,
right?
Go on. What happened was this guy, and his name was Newman, and he smoked a pipe and had a beard, and he was an unlikely rock star.
Yeah.
But he was known as Thunderclap by his mates.
Yeah.
Because what he did was he played the piano, but he played it in a style where he smashed the keyboard all the time.
Oh, yeah.
So
like Jerry Lee Lewis type thing.
That's right. Yeah. So they used to call him Thunderclap, okay? So he's born Andrew Lawrence Newman in Hounslow, Middlesex, learned to play the piano by watching his father's hands on the keys. His father, Charles, trained as a gardener at Kew and then worked as a park superintendent, okay?
Yes.
Do you know that?
I didn't know anything about Thunderclap Newman, so everything you're telling me about him is news to me.
Now, what happened was this guy was taken on as a piano player, right?
Yeah.
And he got a call from Pete Townsend.
Uh-huh.
And Pete Townsend had heard about him as being a good session piano player, right?
Yes.
So he said, I want you to help me out on a film track. So Townsend introduced him to a lad called Speedy Keen.
Speedy Keen.
Right. And this Speedy Keen was a very young man, in his early 20s or something, a regulation rocker with long hair and a leather jacket, right?
Yeah.
And what happened was he was working on the show. Speedy Keen worked for Pete Townsend as a chauffeur.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so you got Speedy Keen.
Is that why it was called Speedy?
I don't know.
Might have been.
Yeah, it might have been. So Speedy Keen's a guitarist working for Pete Townsend as a chauffeur.
Yeah.
Newman, Thunderclap Newman, is a studio piano player.
Right.
They get into a studio together and were asked to play some music for the background to a film that was being made, okay?
Right.
Anyway, the film never happened. The music was not used in the film, but one of Keen's compositions sounded too good to lose, so Newman went away and played it to somebody else, and when asked what's the name, he said it's called Revolution. And the guy he was talking to at this other studio said, but the Beatles have just put out a record called Revolution.
Yeah.
John Lennon wrote it.
Oh, is that why they didn't call it that?
Revolution number 9.
Yeah.
He said, you have to find another title for it.
Right.
So he said, well, what about Something in the Air? And he said, what's that? He said, well, I don't know. He said, there is something in the air about this. He said, call it that then.
But that's part of the lyrics, isn't it?
Sorry?
Isn't Something in the Air part of the lyric? Or is it not?
Yeah, no, they hadn't written the lyrics then. It was just the music they had, you see.
Okay.
So Something in the Air then became the name of the song, the lyrics around it. A name that had to be found for the group. With the record about to be pressed, Townsend said, we haven't got a name for the group. Townsend helped them then produce the record, okay? And they said, what are you going to call it? This guy's name, by the way, was... what was his first name? Andy Newman. So he said, well, I don't know. He said, what's your name? He said, Andy Newman. He said, but I was known as Thunderclap because I played the piano very hard. He said, OK, we'll call it Thunderclap Newman.
Okay.
And that was it. That's how it all came out. Went to number 1 in the week of the first moon landing in July 1969.
Right. Well, I've got some news for you on the number 1 selling single of the 60s.
And therefore was said to have captured the zeitgeist of the age, OK? It just hit the spot at the time historically.
Zeitgeist?
Yeah, the zeitgeist.
Do you mean the zeitgeist?
That's what I mean, the zeitgeist.
Yeah.
I think it just hit the spot at the time historically and politically. It seemed to resonate with the people and the world, said Thunderclap Newman.
Oh, well, there you go. Now, you shouldn't be surprised when I tell you what the actual best-selling single of the 1960s was.
Go on.
It was She Loves You.
She Loves You?
Yes.
Right, well, that doesn't surprise me.
Doesn't surprise you?
Doesn't surprise me at all,
Well,
no.
you told me that was.
Yeah, well, this one was later, and
well, it was the best-selling single possibly of '69,
and sold a lot,
which is not the same as the best-selling single of the decade.
Now, what I can tell you is the most astonishing thing next. I mean, Pete Townsend is famous for many, many records. Okay,
he certainly is.
Now, the Who.
What's your favourite Who song?
My favourite Who song would be that deaf, dumb, blind boy sure plays a mean pinball.
Pinball Wizard.
Pinball Wizard.
Really?
Yes. Yes.
Why?
Well, I just like it. It's great. It evokes great sort of.
Did you see the movie?
No, I didn't see the movie, no. Was that the one when Elton John had the big boots on?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, I saw the movie. Yeah, I saw the movie, yeah. Now, the interesting thing about this is that it became, ironically, The Who had 2 songs that got to number 2. My Generation and I'm a Boy.
Yeah.
Do you remember I'm a Boy?
I do.
Right, OK, they both got to number 2. However, the only record on which Pete Townsend played, which got to number 1, was Thunderclap Newman.
Was it?
Yeah.
How interesting.
Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm so glad you told me all that.
Well, I thought you'd like to know all that. So there you go.
Well, I've got loads and loads of tweets still coming in.
Yes.
Here's one from Gareth who says, surprised Mike Parry has never had the thunderclap with his Rogerisation tales.
What?
Hashtag be safe, not sorry. I don't know what he means by that.
Well, I think he's talking there clearly in veiled language about STI, isn't he?
Is he?
I think so.
Oh, dear. Tracy says, Clapton has been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame 3 times with the Yardbirds, Cream and as a solo artist.
I think that's brilliant.
And Ian confirms that the biggest single of the 60s was in fact She Loves You by the Beatles.
She loves you, yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
did I tell you I recorded that?
Sorry?
Did I tell you I made a record of that?
You made a record of it?
Yeah.
Have you ever heard this record?
Well, you know, I don't know where it is because I think it's been lost in the mists of time. But I made, you might not remember this, but years ago, they used to be able to go into these little like passport photo booths. And there was one in Rothsay in the Isle of Bute,
right,
where you could actually make a record.
Oh, really?
And my sister and I sang into this microphone.
Do you have any music behind it?
No.
Just sang
and
it,
we sang "I'll Get You," which was the B-side.
Yes.
And because it was the first single we ever had.
I'll get you in the end.
Yeah, that one.
Yes,
I will. I'll get you in the end. Yeah, so we sang that, right?
Oh,
and we both were singing with Scottish accents. It's hilarious. I'll have to try and find it. I don't know if my mother still has it.
Find it. Give us
but it's an old 45.
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
I'm surprised you never did anything like that.
Oh, I did. Excuse me. My record of Paint It Black got into the charts.
You see,
it
was going to go one better.
No,
I'm talking about when you were a child, you plank.
Paint It Black got into the charts.
I'm not talking about what you did when you were grown up.
And I'm going to have the video transferred onto a DVD and make it available if people want to buy it, OK?
Why would anybody want to buy that rubbish?
And I'm going to put it on 2 Mics TV.
Are you?
Yeah, people will love it. It was brilliant.
Was it?
It was a winner.
All right. Have you got to pay any royalties to the Rolling Stones?
No, I don't have to.
I think you should.
No, I don't.
Yeah, I think you might want to. You might want to have a word with your lawyers about that.
This
is Talk Sport.
Red door and I...
Birkenhead says Speedy Keen wrote something in the air.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
He wrote the record, did he?
Jim in Manchester says the best-selling single in 1969 was My Way by Frank Sinatra. Wrong again, Porky.
Yeah, but he didn't write it, did he?
Well, it doesn't matter. You said that was the best-selling single in 1969.
Oh, it was. It was in the charts for 6 weeks. It was top of the charts for 6 weeks.
He says My Way sold more.
Well, I'm sorry, I reject that.
Danny also says the best-selling single of 1969 was Sugar Sugar by the Archies.
Well, exactly. There you go. When Sugar Sugar wasn't even a group, was it?
What do you mean?
It was a manufactured bubblegum
yeah, but it was a big selling song, though.
What was it? Sugar, da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah, it was a cartoon strip, wasn't it?
Honey, da-da-da-da.
She Loves You is the number one, says somebody calling himself Thunderplank. Something in the air isn't even in the top 50 selling singles of the 60s.
Don't be ridiculous.
So what happened to this guy, anyway? You don't seem to have any information on what happened to him after this one hit. One-hit wonder.
He only ever had one hit.
Yeah, but what happened to him after that?
Right, I'll tell you. It was the only number one single in which Townsend played. I've told you that already.
You've told us that.
Right,
I want to know what happened to Thunderclap Newman.
Andy Newman seemed out of place in the world of rock and roll. His conservative appearance, in which he smoked a pipe and dressed in a suit and tie every day, sometimes worked to his advantage. He recalled a gig at Leeds University.
What happened to him?
I'm telling you.
No, you're not. You're just reading to me something.
On the same bill as Deep Purple, when sitting in the dressing room smoking copious quantities of marijuana, the police walked in. Fearing that they were about to be busted, Newman's stone colleague sent him out into the corridor to say he was the manager and that all was well. The police accepted it from this soberly dressed man and left the theatre.
Right. So what happened to him after that?
Thunderclap...
You're not going to go through every single week of his career.
Excuse me, just shut up for a minute, will you? Thunderclap
Newman... time.
Yes, Thunderclap Newman soon disbanded owing to a catastrophically misguided choice as a second single. It was called Accidents, and it chronicled the grisly demise of 4 innocent children and was intended to be darkly comedic. Comedic. Yeah.
Oh, dear.
The problem was the record-buying public thought it was revolting, gruesome, and not only didn't buy it, but wanted it banned. When he got to his 60s, Newman reformed Thunderclap Newman with a new lineup that included Josh Townsend, nephew of Pete, and former Big Country drummer Mark Brzezicki.
Oh,
Heard of him, haven't you?
I've heard of the Big Country, yeah.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Anyway, he lived alone...
Have you heard of the Big Country?
I've heard of the Big Country,
You know where they're from?
The Big Country. I assume. Yeah. Whichever one knows. Canada.
No, Scotland.
Scotland, OK, yeah. Right, Newman lived alone in Clapham, South London, known as Clam, of course.
Thunderclap Newman.
Yeah, Thunderclap Newman, that's right, yeah. With his vast collection of records and books. Well, that's all very well collecting them, mate, but you're supposed to make
a bit like you, then.
Yeah,
so he lives alone in a house with a load of journals.
Well, it looks like
Spends all day doing paperwork.
Yeah. Friends knew that when he rang, they'd better not have anything planned for the next hour or so. Yeah, listen to this is great. He could talk about anything, said the writer John Repish, a friend of his. He was wonderfully well-read, but obsessed with knowledge and how things worked.
We should get the guy on the show.
We should, yeah. Well, he's dead.
No.
Eh?
Well, you didn't tell me he was dead.
No, I told you that's why we were talking about him. Right, he said you could throw any subject at him and he would tell you far more than you needed to know or that you wanted to know. He would have made a great mastermind contestant.
Sounds like a right plank. When did he die?
Andy Thunderclap Newman, musician, was born on November the 21st, 1942. He died on March the 29th, 2016, aged 73.
Oh, so he's only just died?
Yeah, he's only just died, yeah.
Well, that's why you're talking about him.
Well, exactly.
Why didn't you tell me that?
I told you that right from the start.
Yeah.
Why do you think I was talking about it?
I've no idea. I don't know why you talk about anything most of the time.
Yeah, well.
Now, I've got a very worrying picture to show you. Which appeared in the Evening Standard just a few hours ago.
The London Evening Standard?
The London Evening Standard,
Okay, show it me.
Now, have a look at this.
You
might recognise the scenario.
Okay.
You'll recognise the O2, right?
Okay.
What's that in the water?
Is it the Loch Ness Monster?
Well, I don't know.
You know...
I don't know, nobody knows.
No, don't be ridiculous. Let me have a look.
Well, have a look at it. Try not to touch the screen or to switch it off.
I won't touch the screen. Right, that to me is... well, it's not a monster to start off with.
But it's not a fish, is it?
No, it's not a fish. It's far too big.
It's not a whale, because we would know if there was a whale up the river.
It's two bubbles. So it's either a methane bubble from the bottom of the river, which happens all the time.
No, I don't think it's that.
Or it's a piece of floating debris.
Well, it looks very suspiciously like...
Well, what do you think it is?
Well, I don't know. I think it's one of these creatures that you can't quite make out.
Rubbish. It's not a creature, believe me.
Well, it was the picture was taken, right, from the Emirates airline cable car.
Yes.
Which I suppose you haven't been on.
No, but nobody else goes on it.
Yeah, I've been on it.
Oh, have you?
I've been on it loads of times.
Was anybody else on it?
Yeah, there's loads of people on it.
No.
There's always a queue to get on it.
No, it's the most...
It's a massive tourist thing.
No, it's the most unused facility in London. It's a Boris Johnson idea.
No, it's a massive tourist location.
You say that, nobody ever uses it.
Well, you've never been there, right?
Right, I've never been there.
Whereas I've been there, and every time I've been there, there's been a queue to get on it.
Oh, OK.
I take my kids on it because they quite enjoy it.
All right.
Now, the YouTube clip says that it's a video, right? And this thing, which you've said might be some kind of piece of floating debris, disappears below the surface of the water. Well,
that's what happened to debris. Debris bobs up and bobs down again.
No, but then after a brief glimpse, and then it moves again, and then it briefly surfaces. And I mean, it's not like it disappears and then stays down. Do you know what I mean?
So what do people think it is?
Well, one said if you slow it down enough and pause it, it looks like a pod of dolphins, perhaps, or porpoises.
Oh, that's good.
And there's still a huge, giant shadow under the water that looks like one creature.
Ooh.
So I mean, you just don't know. It's kind of unexplained.
Quite intriguing. Yeah, I like intriguing.
And it's only down the road from where I live, you see. So I'm quite interested because I mean, if there's some kind of weird creature swimming up and down the Thames, I'd like to know about it.
The monster might come ashore near your apartment.
Well, it might do.
Now, did you say that these new sort of trendy air fresheners that people put in offices now, which is a little bowl with fluid in it, and then a load of sticks sticking out?
Well, it's what they call aromatherapy.
Aromatherapy.
Instead of having one of those, you can get those plug-in air fresheners. Which I bet you have.
Sure, I used to have.
You would have them all over your house.
No, I used to have.
Yeah, you would. It's a sort of petty bourgeois thing you would do.
Yeah, well, you know, I like being petty and bourgeois, so that's all right.
Well, petty is easy for you to be. But yeah, so this is kind of like the more kind of, shall we say, new age way of doing it.
But did you say that the fluid in there is vanilla?
It can be vanilla flavoured. That particular one was. We've had it removed from the studio.
I've got news for you.
What?
The ice cream is going to be extinct within 2 years.
Yes, I've heard this. There's some kind of vanilla shortage, isn't there?
The poor harvest in Madagascar, right?
Yeah.
Which is one of the world's main suppliers of vanilla pods.
Yeah.
Means that either the price of ice creams is going to rise substantially, or people are going to stop making them.
Well, I don't believe that, for one. Funnily enough, Sandy Wall was mentioning this on the show
Global
yesterday
price
morning.
of vanilla is set to soar.
I was in the middle of a sentence.
Yeah, go on.
Sandy Wall introduced this subject, and she actually predicted that you would talk about it on the show tonight.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because she thought it would be in your area.
Yes.
Because you're always talking about shortages, and you're always trying to panic everyone into the idea that there's not really vanilla.
No.
But, I mean, vanilla in vanilla ice cream, you might as well, say that there's going to be no more chocolate ice cream because there's a shortage of chocolate.
Yeah.
The amount used is so minuscule that you could make. I mean, for example, if you went and got a Mr. Whippy from down the road there by the London Eye,
yes,
how much vanilla do you think's in that?
Well, enough to make it taste like vanilla ice cream.
No, hardly any. They use vanilla essence.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter, mate. The point is...
When I worked in a bakery, we used to have big bottles of vanilla essence. You don't really use actual vanilla. So the vanilla essence...
Well, where do you think vanilla essence comes from?
Well, it's made from the vanilla pod.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
But you don't need to use an awful lot of it.
Well, you've got to buy the pods. Yeah, but at the moment, they know exactly how much they're paying for their vanilla. It's going to double or treble in price. Vanilla is
you've
also...
been saying this for years about all sorts of things. Like you said...
And I'm usually right.
No, the guy that texted us the other day said the olive oil prices remained the same, despite your warnings that it was going to double in price.
I think sometimes I'm so ahead of the game that I predict these things when the crisis is about to loom, and then the crisis doesn't. Now, vanilla is also increasingly in demand in foreign markets such as Asia. So that's really put up the demand, OK? Rising personal incomes mean that more people are able to spend money on luxuries, which include, believe it or not, in some parts of the world, people eating ice cream for the first time ever.
Where would that be?
In China.
China?
Yeah.
And
India.
Never eat ice cream?
Eh?
They never eat ice cream?
No, there's loads of places in China and India where they've never had ice cream before,
right,
and they're starting to introduce it for the first time.
Are you sure?
I'm certain. So you can imagine that. You can imagine people going to Madagascar and saying, right, buy a few tons of vanilla and let's take it to this place in India or China where they've never had it before.
Yeah.
The demand will be so enormous because people will say, wow, never tasted this before, it's beautiful, let's have some more. And all of a sudden you've got a rush on the vanilla pod, okay?
Apparently ice cream was invented in China.
Part of China. China's a big place.
It is a big place.
It's a big place.
And, it is.
And lots of the poor peasants...
As long ago as 3000 BC. It did not arrive in Europe via Italy until the 13th century.
Well, that's true. But there are still a lot of paddy field-type locations in China.
Locations.
Yeah, who don't have vanilla. Or don't have ice cream.
Maybe they have pistachio.
I doubt that very much indeed.
Really?
Listen,
what's your favourite ice cream?
Well, let me think. If you can get it, butterscotch.
Really?
Butterscotch, yeah.
You've got a sweet tooth of a 6-year-old.
Well, so what? So what? That doesn't make me a bad person. Doesn't make me a bad person at all.
Plank.
Now, I've got some report here on the wine industry.
Oh, yeah.
And the way that the dastardly French always sort things out themselves. I mean, one of the reasons why we have such big problems with our neighbours in Europe is that because...
Our European brethren, you mean?
Our European brethren is that we insist in this country on obeying every rule passed by the European Parliament, don't we? And everything else, you know? Whereas the French... actually decide which rules they're going to obey and which they aren't.
It does seem that way. Funnily enough, I was thinking about wine earlier on because I'm being followed, bizarrely, by something called The Wine Show.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
And what's that?
It's a wine show on ITV, filmed in 12 countries around the world, broadcasting in spring 2016. Do you think they know something that I don't?
Probably.
Do you think maybe they're going to invite me on the show or something?
Well, maybe, but I mean,
why do you think they're following me?
Well, because you drink such a lot of it, you've probably got your own, probably got your own file at MI6 or something like that because you drink so much wine.
Do you think?
Yeah. Now then, it says here, this is great, I love this, vineyard owners... Right, these are people in France, are attacking lorries bringing cheap Spanish wine into France.
Yeah. They like to do that, don't they? They like attacking lorries.
In an upsurge of anger over the spread of boxed wine. Now, this is brilliant. The Spanish are trying to...
No, they're out of time, though.
We're not out of time. The Spanish are trying to import cheap boxed wine into France. So what do the French do? They do what they always do. They stop their lorries at the border and smash them up and let the wine run away on the road.
Yeah.
That's what they always do.
Yeah.
Non-compliant wine.
Non-compliant wine?
Yeah.
You don't care what sort of wine you drink.
Producers set up a blockade on the motorway across the Pyrenees and stopped the Spanish wine lorries.
Well, they would, wouldn't they?
Then emptied their contents onto the roadside to run down the mountain.
Yeah.
So it literally was a river of red wine running away back into Spain.
Yeah.
That's typical of the French.
Yeah, there we are. This is Talk Sport. Coming up, we're going to be talking about cats fighting crime.
When you need all the latest form and odds on all the day's sporting action, and you need it fast, you need the Coral Daily Download. Get all the latest news and great offers on all the big games and all the biggest race meetings in one essential package. Delivered to your ears at the speed of sound. Don't miss the Coral Daily Download every morning on the Alan Brazil Sports Breakfast from 6 on Talk Sport with Coral. Your best bet for breakfast.
Critics say that Hardcore Henry is a mix of Jason Bourne, Captain America, and Call of Duty. It's a first-person thrill ride that will leave you gasping. A jaw-dropping action spectacle. Guardian Online. It's insanely awesome. A must-see Unilad. Hardcore Henry in cinemas Friday. Rated 18.
Huge offers at American Golf. Bridgestone E-Series balls for only $14.99 and Adidas polos for only $19.99. Adicross shoes are just $29.99 and the Garmin S2 GPS watch is just $99.99. Plus, get TaylorMade AeroBurner drivers for only $139.99 and TaylorMade AeroBurner irons for only $299.99. But hurry, offers available while stocks last. Buy in-store or online at americangolf.co.uk.
Small businesses. Direct Line guaranteed to beat any public liability insurance quote for the same cover. Can your insurance do that? New customers only. Qualifying criteria apply. Underwritten by UK Insurance Limited.
The Two Mics. Simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Do you know what? I think cats' brains are controlled by a force outside the knowledge of a human being. And what I did was, I hid behind my door. Right. When the cat came close enough, I went, "No!
What's new, pussycat? Whoa, whoa, whoa! What's new, pussycat? Whoa, whoa, whoa! Pussycat, pussycat, I've got flowers.
Tom Jones had more hits in the 60s than your man, Thunderclap Newman, as well.
Well, he only had one hit, I told you that.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
it was one magnificent hit. It was an iconic record.
Yeah.
One of the best-selling
well,
of the
Mick
60s.
in Kent says, I loved Something in the Air and thought it was one of the great counterculture songs of the 60s.
So
I was so sad when it turned up on an advert for one of the airlines in the 90s.
Yeah, he did. Which one was that? 90? I'm not sure. I'm not sure which airline it was.
Might have been BA.
Was it Virgin?
Might have been Virgin. I don't know.
Could have been.
I don't know. Anyway, let's talk about cats because Marilyn Krieger is a woman who is a great expert on cats.
Excellent.
In fact, not just on what they do, where they live, but what they actually behave like. Because she's a cat behaviour consultant.
Yeah.
And there was an interesting story this week. I don't know if you saw it from the Durham Police.
Yes.
Here in this country, who said basically that they might be introducing cats as well as dogs to help fight crime. Now, I'm not quite sure how that's going to work.
No, I'm not either.
But let's ask Marilyn because she might have a clue. Marilyn, a very good morning to you.
Good morning. Well, it's evening here, but good morning.
Where are you exactly, Marilyn?
I'm in California.
Oh, in California. Okay, brilliant.
Excellent.
Now,
quite a ways away.
It is quite a ways away, and much nicer weather there, I can imagine, at the moment. But
it's beautiful out here.
Let's talk about cats, because the instigation of this story actually came from a 5-year-old who sent a letter asking why cats aren't used in crime in the same way that dogs are, which actually, like a lot of questions from 5-year-olds, is quite an intelligent question.
That's right. I thought it was adorable.
Yeah. So, I mean, why aren't they? is my question.
Well, cats are very different than dogs, and they depends on what their role is. I don't see them sitting in the police car and taking down a person who's running away, or even sniffing out, used on the specific spots to find criminals. But
they're quite good at watching people, aren't they?
Well, they are, but what a good role would be for a cat? It would be a comfort cat. So why not have cats that are in the police station that can comfort the victims?
Oh, the victims, yeah.
Yeah, comfort cats.
That's not a bad idea. May I say this, Maren? You're an expert and I'm not. But the reason dogs are able to be used by police forces and law enforcement forces like drugs agencies and that kind of stuff is because dogs essentially love to be loved by human beings, and therefore they want to please their human masters, whereas cats actually despise us all and would like to kill us if they had their own way, wouldn't they? And on that basis, the cats don't feel the need to earn their right to be around, do they?
Well, that's not true. What you're saying is actually not true.
Right.
Are you a dog person, or you enjoy cats?
I'll explain something to you about my co-host, Mr. Parry, here. He thinks all cats are actually evil.
I do.
He has a problem with cats. I don't understand why he does.
I would never have known.
Mm-hmm.
Cats are as affectionate as dogs are. They show their affection differently than dogs do.
Yeah.
And they can be trained just like dogs can.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't be appropriate for them to ride in a police car and to take down a criminal. That wouldn't work. But they would. They're very, very affectionate, and they respond just like, not like dogs do, but differently. But they respond to affection, and my cats are very affectionate.
The one thing about cats as well is that they're very patient. I mean, they could stake something out like a bird for hours on end, can't they? Or, a small rodent or something. They could sit in a place. I mean, could you not attach like a camera to one of these cats, maybe? And you could use it as like a cat cam, so that if you wanted to put somebody under surveillance, you could have the cat sitting in one spot, and it would be very helpful.
Well, that was done, actually, during the Cold War.
Was it?
Mm-hmm. There were cats were trained, and they were dropped into certain areas, and they did have cameras. They had different little things on them, and they were wandering around collecting data. And people just thought they were cats wandering around and didn't realize they were spy cats.
Oh, right. So they've been used as... So there is historical usage of them as spies, then. That's interesting.
Yes.
Now, tell me this, Marilyn. Another reason why dogs are used all the time is dogs have this incredible sense of smell. So they can smell out explosives, they can smell out drugs, they can even, these days, smell out when a human being has got the onset of some terrible disease. They can smell the way that human tissue reacts to that. Do cats have any such ability as well?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, their sense of smell may be just about as developed, if not more developed, than dogs. And to answer your question, I know of 2 cats that were not trained to do this, but for whatever reason sniffed out cancer. One was a cat that I rehomed with somebody because I coordinate Bengal rescue for California.
Right.
And the woman that adopted the cat had an area on her face that the cat would not leave alone and kept licking and just kept worrying it.
I see, yeah.
And she went to the doctor, and for whatever reason, then the doctor saw a little point there, and it was melanoma.
Well, that's very interesting. And shouldn't that be developed then? I mean, if that's the case, if one cat can do that, shouldn't we now have some scientific research into how to utilise such a very valuable resource?
Yes.
And is that happening?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And is that happening?
Not that I know of, but I don't see why it shouldn't.
Are there some cats, some particular breeds that are better at that kind of thing than others, do you think?
I don't know. Well, it depends. I will say that maybe Persians aren't as equipped to do that just simply because of the way the structure in the nose. But other than that, I would think most cats would be equipped, but they would have to be trained. It's very easy to train them. Just like with any animal, you find what motivates them, and that's what you use. You never punish them. I'm obviously a positive trainer, positive reinforcement.
Have you trained cats in your time, Marilyn?
I always train cats. My cats are very well trained.
So what kind of
train
things?
My clients' cats.
What kind of things can you train a cat to do then?
Just about anything. My cats are trained to go to their carriers, to open them, to go in and close them when I tell them to.
Wow.
They also shake hands. They roll over. They play fetch. They jump through hoops. You can train them to do anything as long as they want to, and that's what the trick is to make sure that you always reinforce the behaviors that you want. It's like with any animal.
Mm-hmm. You say like with any animal, but...
People, too.
Are cats...
Yeah, you can be trained to do some stuff.
No, don't be silly. Now, what I'm saying is here, Marilyn, are cats... you just told us about the cat that, licked the owner's face and eventually cancer was discovered and all that, but are cats as good at communicating back to humans as dogs are?
You just need to know how to read them.
That's what I mean.
Yes, absolutely. You have to understand what they are saying, and their faces may not be as expressive as dogs are, but they certainly are very expressive. You need to learn to read their body language.
Sure.
And their vocalizing and, the way they hold themselves.
Yeah, sure. So you'd have to be... you'd have to need people expertly trained in interpreting the body language.
Like Marilyn is.
Yes,
Marilyn
exactly.
She's already trained in that.
Yeah, of a cat, and therefore you can have a cat or two cats in a room with you, and you can work out exactly what they're trying to convey. Yeah.
Well, you've told me in the past that you've seen cats in a room together conspiring.
Can you with people? Can you with dogs? There's a point,
Yeah. No, but I mean...
Do you think cats communicate with each other, Marilyn?
Certainly they communicate with each other. Even the way they hold their tails, the way they hold their ears. These are all expressions that
that's right. I'm thinking, in terms of, training individual cats, maybe that's the wrong idea. Maybe training, a lot of cats together, because they could take down a criminal, couldn't they? I mean, imagine if you had 100 cats all kind of after the same thing, they could presumably get hold of the criminal.
I don't think so.
No?
No, cats are a little more solitary, and I don't think it would work well to at first train them all together. You can train them individually and then have them work together,
right?
Perhaps.
What about bigger cats? Like you have, I know that, obviously I'm not talking about lions and tigers, but what about things like, wild bobcats and things like that? Could you train them? Because they're quite scary.
Sure, but they would need to be truly worked with quite a bit since they are not domesticated.
Not domesticated, quite. No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and also, I'm not sure if that's the best interest of the cat, of the wild cat, to do that.
Indeed.
Well, it might not be the best interest of a cat to jump through a hoop, I suppose, either, but, as long as they enjoy it.
Indeed, as long as they don't suffer.
Yeah. Have you got a website, Marilyn, that we can direct people to in case they'd like to find out more about what you do?
I do, and I also am on Facebook. So my website is thecatcoach.com.
Right.
Thecatcoach.com, and my Facebook page is The Cat Coach.
Okay, The Cat Coach. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us, Marilyn.
Thank you very much indeed.
Delight.
Indeed.
Thank you. Yeah. Marilyn Krieger there. What a lovely woman.
Lovely lady, yeah.
Thank goodness you weren't rude to her, because I was fearing the worst.
Oh, no. I'd never be rude to a lady on air. No.
You'd never be rude to a lady?
No,
yeah, so it's just the men you're rude to?
No, I'm not rude to the men. I'm frank and specific to people. Right. And I said to her, are cats as good as dogs? I said, I think they're evil. And she put me right and said, no, you're wrong about that.
So you're convinced now, then?
Well, no, I'm not. I still think cats are evil. But I do think that... what's that lady's name? Marilyn. Marilyn. I thought Marilyn... being a cat lover, because she works with cats, probably turn a blind eye to some of the evilness that lies within cats.
You think they've got to her, is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying they've got to her, but I mean, she probably understands them better than me and makes allowances for the evil nature of cats and their scheming and planning and their, their hatred of the human race.
I like my idea of 100 cats chasing down a burglar.
100 cats chasing down a burglar? What on earth are you talking about?
You weren't even listening, were you?
Sounds like...
you weren't listening.
Sounds like Dalmatian Dogs film, that. What's it called?
101 Dalmatians.
101 Dalmatians, that's it. Yeah.
No, I was talking about 100 cats.
100 cats doesn't exist.
This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mikes. Simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
You recognise it now?
I know that song very well. That was a song of my youth. I reckon I was in my sort of mid-20s when that song was big on jukeboxes around the West Midlands, probably.
Well, it came out in 1973.
73,
So that means you were born in 1953.
No, it doesn't. It means that it was around in jukeboxes for a couple of years after it came out. So I was a reporter on the Birmingham Evening Mail in those
Good lyrics,
days.
though.
Sorry?
Did you like the lyrics?
There weren't any lyrics.
Yeah.
No, there weren't any lyrics. It was a musical.
Well, why did you say you'd never heard of it when I asked you about Jessica, the Allman Brothers?
I hadn't. You
didn't know that was by the Allman Brothers?
I didn't know the name of the song. I know the song, and I knew it was the Allman Brothers. I didn't know it was called Jessica.
Yeah.
Amazed,
it was named after his daughter.
Amazed it's got a name, really, considering there's no lyrics in it. It was a stupid thing to give a name to a song with no lyrics.
Well, he wrote the song for his daughter. It was called Jessica.
You know, the Shadows used to make, like, songs without lyrics. Do you remember?
The Shadows, yeah.
Yeah, Hank Marvin and the Shadows.
Yeah.
They made one called Foot Tapper. Yeah, it was called Foot Tapper. It was a stupid song.
Yeah, Foot Tapper and Shunters Club.
Yeah, and they used to move around the stage with their guitars.
There's lots of great instrumentals.
Yeah,
Tubular Bells, the album which made Richard Branson's fortune.
Yes,
it doesn't have any lyrics, does it?
All the way through the LP.
Pretty much.
Is that right? Yeah, who did that?
Mike Oldfield.
Mike Oldfield, yeah, that's right. He died, didn't he?
Did he?
Yeah, he drank himself to death in Ibiza.
Did he?
Yeah, he bought a place in Ibiza and just went on a bladderization mission. No, I tell you what, 40 years ago today, I've just discovered Howard Hughes died.
Howard Hughes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The world's richest man.
Not the guy who's on talk radio.
Well, no, unless it's happened in the last few minutes or whatever.
Hughes,
No, we wish him the best of health. No, I'm talking about the industrialist and eccentric billionaire Howard Hughes.
The guy who made the bra for Jane Mansfield.
Made the bra for Jane Mansfield. The man who founded...
I never quite understood that story.
Why would he
make a bra for Jane Mansfield?
To uplift her bosom.
No, I know, but why would he do that, though?
Well, because he was making a film. And he owned the film studio. And so he went in and he said, that woman looks fantastic, but I want to see more of her.
Yeah.
I.e., he wanted to see more of her...
More cleavage.
More cleavage, that's right. So he invented the underwire bra.
But it seems an odd thing to do, though, for somebody who was involved in inventing other things.
Not really. He just had one of those incredible minds.
He was a kind of mad recluse, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was a mad recluse. And he founded Pan Am Airways. Right, Pan American.
Well, he created the first, the sort of transcontinental plane, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, yeah. And he flew the...
What was it, the Grey Goose?
The Grey Goose. But the Grey Goose only ever flew for 300 yards. It was the world's biggest aeroplane, but it was so big it couldn't get off the ground. He lived in the Sands Hotel in Las Vegas, didn't he? The top 2 floors.
I think I stayed in that hotel.
Yeah,
it's now been knocked down, hasn't it?
Oh, it's been knocked down. It used to be Frank Sinatra's hotel as well. He never came out of there for something like 10 years. Lived in the top 2 floors. The curtains were always drawn, and he used to walk around with tissue boxes on his feet because he was so frightened of germs.
And he let his nails grow.
Let his nails grow. Wouldn't have them cut at all.
Where did his money come from?
Did he
inherit it?
He inherited some from his father, who had a tool and die company, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Used to make like bits for drills for the the early years of the oil industry and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And he took it over and he just massively expanded it into every area of industry. He made a fortune during the Second World War by supplying munitions.
So he was an arms dealer, in other words.
Well, as part of his industry was.
Yeah.
But as I say, he invented Pan Am. He massively expanded the tool and die industry.
Right.
He started producing all the equipment for the oil industry in the south of America, in Dallas and Texas and all that kind of stuff. He had massive financial interest. He was one of the
So why are you telling me all this, anyway?
The shrewdest investors, because 40 years ago today he died.
Right.
So I thought you'd like to know that.
Well, thanks very much. We've already heard about some... So far we've had Thunderclap Newman.
Yeah.
You're talking about because he's dead. Now we're talking about Howard Hughes because he's dead.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
I've also got a text here from somebody who says Mike Oldfield's alive and well.
Is he alive and well? Well,
so I don't know why you've killed him off.
No, best wishes to you. Who did die? Oh, I know.
Duncan in Leicester, Porky total plank.
Yeah.
Mike Oldfield is still alive and well.
Well, I'm
Get
delighted.
your bloody facts right.
I'm delighted and I hope he's in the best of health. No, I'm sorry about that. I do withdraw the allegation that Mike Oldfield
Well, it's not really an allegation.
No, the suggestion.
You can't really say he's dead allegedly, can you?
No, I can't.
I think the thing that was most libelous was when you suggested that he'd drunk himself to death in Ibiza.
Well, no, I think I confused him, actually. I'm awfully sorry.
Who are you thinking of?
I would like to apologise for that, Mike, and if you did hear that, then I'm very, very sorry, and I withdraw it.
Who do you think you were confusing him with?
I'm confusing it with the guy who did Baker Street.
Jerry Rafferty?
Jerry Rafferty, yeah, that's right.
He drank himself to death in Ibiza?
Yeah, he did,
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't have to make another apology.
So sorry about that, Mike,
Well, why don't we do something about Jerry Rafferty, since he's dead as well?
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Yeah.
Now, I'll tell you what I'll tell you about.
Go on.
Which is very, very interesting.
Yes.
I have been campaigning for years that the reason that Europe slowed down, their economy is so slow, Well, what's the problem?
Apparently it was the spruce goose as well, not the grey goose.
Oh, the spruce goose, OK.
I was thinking about the vodka.
No, grey goose is vodka, yeah. Now, I have been campaigning for years for the Spanish to get real. And what have I said over the years?
Get real.
No, get real. Get real. And what they have to do is get rid of the siesta.
Yeah.
Anyway, guess what the Prime Minister of Spain is going to do?
Who is the Prime Minister of Spain these days?
Mariano Rajoy.
Hey, by the way, see the Icelandic guy's gone?
Yeah, he's gone, yeah.
I mean, you said yesterday this was no big deal, but, we already lost a Prime Minister.
Yeah, but he panicked, didn't he, and just decided to quit.
Well, I don't think he panicked. I think his wife has got all sorts of fingers in all sorts of pies that unfortunately made him look a bit of a plonker.
Have been revealed in the Panama Papers.
Yeah.
What I was going to say is Mariano Rajoy, right, who is the... what is he? He's the Prime Minister of Spain.
Who is he? What's his name?
Mariano Rajoy.
Okay.
R-A-J-O-Y.
Rajoy, maybe.
Yeah, Rajoy. He's saying that, you've got to get rid of the siesta now. We've got to have a normal working day. The siesta, a centuries-old tradition, originally brought about because of the impracticality of agricultural workers toiling outside in baking heat. But Spain's service-based economy and air-conditioned buildings now mean it's got to go. That's what he's saying, OK?
Right. Well, so he hasn't actually got rid of it. He's just saying he wants to get rid of it.
He's saying it's just an excuse for many workers to slope off for a nap in the afternoon, OK?
Yeah.
Now, the Spanish working day is different to ours. It starts at 10, they break at 2, they return at 4 or 5, and they don't go home until 8 or 9.
Right.
Now, I would hate a working day like that.
Well, I mean, a lot of people
I would just hate a working day like that.
Well, you prefer one where you have to have no sleep at all and come into work at 12 o'clock.
No, what I'm saying is you get into work as early as possible, get your work done and go home. That's what you're supposed to do. Because most of the energy you have in your body comes in the hours after you wake up.
Yeah, but you never sleep, so what difference does it make to you?
Well, I do sleep. I do have 2 or 3 hours sleep, and then I get up and I feel good.
When do you think you're at your peak then during any course of a 24-hour period?
Oh,
because it should be when you're here.
Oh no, without doubt, I'm at my peak between sort of 4:30 a.m. and and midday.
Well, that's ridiculous.
No, it's not.
Well, because you work at night though.
Well, it doesn't matter.
Your peak. This is why I keep telling you have to sleep when I do, because your peak should be when you're working.
No. You
your
don't
peak
understand.
should be when you're here.
But I am working.
What?
You don't understand. I am working.
The job that you do here with me, the 2 mics on live radio across the world, right?
Yes.
This is when you should be at your peak.
But
there's no point you being at your peak after you've left.
You have to understand, this is only the physical manifestation of my 24-hour cycle of working.
You work for 24 hours?
I do, yeah, I do.
Well, I think this should be your most important part of that.
Well, it is my most important part, but
then why would you be so disrespectful to me as to say that you perform only on your lowest level?
No. This is only my visible working part, these 3 hours, right?
It doesn't look like you do any work to me.
I work when I sleep, OK?
What?
I work...
But you don't do any sleep.
Even my dreams are related to accumulating information in order to make the rest of the day go properly.
Do you write your dreams down?
Sorry?
Do you write your dreams down?
I don't need to. I can remember them.
Can you? OK, because I'm going to ask you about your dreams in a minute.
OK.
This is Talk Sport. Talk Sport, we are the 2 mics. Ask Porky coming up in a little while. We've got a text here from somebody who says, Dear Plank, I'm very much alive. Best regards, Mike Oldfield.
Yes, well, indeed you are, Mike. And once again, I extend the apologies for the slight confusion about the bladderation merchant who drank himself to death. It wasn't you.
And there's another one here.
I know you lead a full and very civilised and moral life.
Well, you're not sure about that. He is, after all, a rock star.
Yes.
Dear Porky, just to advise you that I'm also still alive. Regards, Eric Clapton.
Oh, yeah. I know Eric Clapton's alive.
Overrated musician.
Last time I saw a picture of Eric Clapton, he was wearing a massive, great fur coat. I don't know if it was real fur or simulated fur, but it was in the cold of New York. And the picture I saw of him before that, and this man you're absolutely right, he's a multi-millionaire, tens of millions and all that.
Oh, he is.
He was pictured in a washerette in New York doing his washing.
A laundrette?
A laundrette,
was he?
Yeah, he was, yeah.
Why was he in one of those?
I've no idea. Nobody could ever explain it.
Are you sure it was him?
Yeah, sure,
I mean, you did mistake a Chelsea fan for Robert De Niro on the TV last night.
No, I'm certain it was him.
Who definitely wasn't.
Definitely wasn't, no.
Now, how about this from Bill, who says, Cats, they can't pursue a criminal. They might find a stolen kitty by accident. Expect they could arrest Parry in the name of the Claw. But when he makes a furs in the street.
That's very good, well done.
What do you make of that?
I like that, a load of alliteration of words there.
Derek in Pencoed has texted in as well.
In Pencoed?
Yes, there is a programme on, he says, on one of the satellite channels called My Cat from Hell. where a cat behaviour expert goes to people's houses where someone has a problem with the cat owned by their partner.
Really? Yeah, I don't think too much of that one.
And here's one
Mind
from...
you, Derek from Pencoth, being a bog cleaner, could use his brush to ward off the cat, couldn't he?
That's very cruel. I don't know why you keep picking on him.
No, I'm not picking on him.
Triumph says, Porky admits his peak is not while he's on the radio. Tell us something we didn't know.
No. I work at a constant peak, and it's all very well for you to try and pick out the hours at which I'm at my best. All I'm saying is I have a dynamic that exists between sort of 4:30 in the morning and midday.
Anyway, you were going to tell us about...
And I have a different dynamic.
The last dream you had.
No, I wasn't.
Yeah, you were.
No, I wasn't. You said, could you write dreams down? I said, no, I can remember them. And you said, I'll talk to you about that in a minute.
I said I'll ask you about it. Tell us about the last dream you had. We've only got 30 seconds.
I don't think millions of listeners are interested in my dreams.
Yeah, no, I can tell you, I promise you this. They're fascinated.
One recurring dream I have is I lose my car.
Right.
I cannot find my car.
Yeah, that's your status symbol.
I don't know where...
That's all about you losing your status.
I don't know where I've parked
it's all about you losing your status.
I go around asking people if you've seen my car.
Yeah. Do you not understand dream analysis?
And then I've lost my car key, so if I find my car, I won't be able to start it up.
Yeah, exactly.
I lose my phone and my wallet. They've suddenly disappeared out of my pocket.
Do you not understand about dream analysis?
I don't do dream analysis.
I'm giving you, thousands of pounds worth of free psychoanalysis here. What it means is that you fear losing your status in life because your status symbol is the car.
Yeah, rubbish.
And your access to that status is via the key. Which is your, probably your job. You fear losing your job.
What's a load
you fear
of
having no purpose because you have no wallet, which means you have no money, which means you can't pursue the status that you'd like. I'm very good at this. It's not a load of Biloxios. People would pay good money for that kind of advice.
I don't think so.
Really? This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mites. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. Bob says, how can you slag off the Shadows, Porky? They are a great band, he says.
Oh, I didn't say they weren't, but I said that they did a lot of musicals.
An awful lot of their instrumentals were what made them what they were.
Yeah, exactly. What was... Foot Tapper was one. What was the other one?
Well, they did loads. FC says that's probably not a dream, that's just dementia.
That's not dementia at all. On the on the subject of music and all that kind of stuff, is it not right that with the fact that most music is downloaded these days rather than bought in shops?
Although there is a resurgence, is there not, in vinyl?
Well, I think there is, but I don't see it. I mean, I go in shops, I don't see huge racks of LPs there used to be in the old days.
Because there's not a lot of places to get them.
No, exactly.
There are places where you can go specifically if that's what you want.
Yeah, but
in fact, there's a place just on the edge of Shaftesbury Avenue.
Yeah, okay,
where you can go and buy
that's fine, but that's Shaftesbury Avenue in London. No, can you get the same thing in Hartlepool? Can you get the same thing in Dumbarton?
I would imagine so.
Can you get the same thing in Newry in Northern Ireland? Can you?
I'm sure you can.
Well, I'm not sure you can. And so what I'm saying is, for a generation like ours, a lot of music passes us by because it simply is in a medium which, we don't touch anymore. I certainly don't touch. I mean, I don't examine the download charts except when I'm looking at where our Mike's 2 Live DVD is.
Yeah.
But I don't look at the music charts. Hey?
Where is it?
Very high up, actually.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Excellent.
doing very well.
Very glad to hear it.
But
you see, apparently it's a lot easier now to get a song, because there was a time when we used to have a guy called Nigel used to ring in and do little songs on the radio.
Oh, yeah.
And one of my friends who was a record producer said, look, I'm going to do a charity record release for him. And he said, actually, you only need to get about 5,000 to 10,000 sales of anything now as a single to get it into the top 40.
5,000 or 10,000?
Yeah. So it's nothing like what it used to be.
I mean, they used to give gold discs out for 100,000 sales.
That's right.
And platinum discs if you sold 1 million and all that kind of stuff. Massive numbers of sales in those days.
So to get into the charts now, the single, because the charts will split up as well into different types of music.
Yes.
And so to get into the charts now, you don't actually need to have that many downloads.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Absolutely.
Now, did you see the story from Russia?
Yeah.
A little bit earlier on today about a chimpanzee.
Yeah.
Who's apparently a hit on the internet because it washes windows at the Russian zoo where it is held.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear that.
It's called the Ruchi Zoo, the Royev Ruchi Zoo in Krasnoyarsk.
Yes.
You know where that is?
No.
Why not?
Well, because Russia's a very big place.
It's two of your favourite subjects, Russia and chimps. How do you not know about this?
It goes over 11 time zones.
5-year-old chimpanzee called Anfisa.
Yeah, very, very glad to hear
it. There's a picture of it washing windows.
Yeah, it's brilliant, yeah.
Maybe that one's passed you by.
No, it hasn't passed me by at all. It's just that, I can't possibly take in all information and retain it all
Apparently
the time.
it copies the window cleaner's actions.
Does it really?
Yeah.
Does it actually clean the windows, though, or not? Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, I want to tell you something about a zoo. I'm a friend of Chester Zoo,
So
right?
you say.
When
was the last time you were there?
Well, I don't get up there very often.
Maybe they just got some new penguins or something.
Well, I was just about to say to you, we've got these 4 new penguins.
When you say we?
Yeah.
What do you mean, we?
Well, we, the zoo people, you know what I mean?
You're not the zoo people.
I'm a friend of Chester Cathedral, right?
Yeah.
So I refer to that in
but that
the
just means you give them some money.
I give them £100 a year.
£100?
Yes.
That's very generous.
And I think it's the same for the zoo. I'm not sure.
And how much did you spend in the bar that time?
Where?
When you bought those 5 bottles of quite expensive wine.
Where was that?
And when? A few weeks ago. You were with Mr. Brazil and some of his friends.
Oh, I see what you mean, yeah. Well,
and you bought some, I think it was Chablis, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was about 250 quid, unfortunately.
Right. So you spent more
in
a 3-hour period at a bar
Yes.
than you give to your great home of Chester Cathedral.
All year.
More than twice as much.
Yeah, all year.
Yeah, but you give them £100 a year.
Yes.
You spent this in 3 hours.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
So what does that tell you?
Well, it doesn't have anything. Not everybody gives to Chester Cathedral. I do. Now, these new penguins at Chester Zoo, they are Humboldt.
What?
Humboldt penguins.
Humboldt.
Humboldt.
What does that mean? Well,
it means that of the 17 penguin species in the world, the Humboldt is most at risk.
They're not the ones that have escaped from that iceberg, are they?
No. So what I'm saying is the whole of the world of zoology and natural science now thinks that Chester Zoo is the most brilliant place in the world.
Is it?
Because they've managed to find penguins give birth to these 4 little penguins.
Right. So is that the first time penguins of this type have been born in captivity?
I think it is. Chester Zoo now home to 4 rare Humboldt penguins. Tiny youngsters have been named Whatsit, Quaver, Frazzle and Cheeto after their keeper's favourite crisp names.
Really? Oh, that's awful.
Yeah, I think it's a bit awful.
Why are they named after crisps?
I don't know.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. But anyway, the keeper, Anne Morris, said, to just confirm what I've just said, of the world's 17 penguin species, they are now among the most at risk. So we're obviously delighted to be bringing up 4 little Humboldt penguins. That's pretty good, that, isn't it?
Well, I suppose so.
It is. It's fantastic.
So how much did you give the Chester Zoo then? Another £100?
I think it's about £100.
So between the Chester Zoo and Chester Cathedral, you gave them less money than you spent at a bar.
For 3 hours?
For 3 hours.
Yeah, but I mean, you see...
Let's talk about man of the people.
But what kind of a comparison is that?
Well, it's a very relevant comparison.
I don't think it is.
Because it tells me that what you do for charity is all about face value. It's all about how it makes you look. So it makes you look like you're a friend of... You've got a little button that says, I'm a friend of Chester Cathedral.
Yeah.
And you've got another little button on the other lapel saying, I'm a friend of Chester Zoo.
That's right, yeah.
You don't actually care enough about them to give them any proper money.
Well,
how long do you think the £100's going to last for these 4 penguins?
How much money do you give to the church which you grew up alongside?
The church?
Yeah.
What, you mean the Catholic Church?
Yeah,
They've got plenty of money.
Oh, so you don't give money then?
No, of course
you
not.
don't give money.
You think the Pope's not rich enough?
So
well, the Pope doesn't need my money.
So you don't give your church any money?
It's not my
but
church.
You're criticising me for giving money to the church.
No, I'm criticising you for being a hypocrite, for making out that you give money to these people when in fact
I do give money.
You give little more than a farthing to most people.
I do give money and you don't. Sorry, how much money do you give to the zoo in the town where you were brought up?
In
you
London.
were brought up in London, were you? Yeah,
London Zoo.
How much do you give to London Zoo?
Well, actually, when I was living very close to London Zoo, I was a member of the London Zoo Trust.
Great.
And I used to take my daughter there all the time.
And how much do you give them now on an annual basis?
Now on an annual basis, I don't give them anything unless I take my kids there.
No, you give them nothing, in fact.
No, I give them... I mean, you must be joking. You try and go to a zoo, if you knew anything about how much the zoos cost, if I went to go to take a family of 4 to London Zoo, it would cost me about £80.
So you give the zoo nothing?
So one visit would almost be the same as your paltry £100, giveaway vagabonds kind of ticket.
You give the zoo nothing.
No.
You give the church
well,
nothing.
You
criticise me for being a generous donor.
I'm not criticising you for being a generous donor. I'm criticising you for being a paltry donor. I think you should give them more money.
I give money to the King's School Chester Old Boys Association.
How much do you give them?
£100. What's your problem?
How many other organisations get £100 from you?
Quite a few, actually.
So you've now got 3 organisations in Chester, and you've only, if you include the service on that bill, you've only just made up for the 3-hour drinking session.
I think I give £100 to Friends of Harefield Hospital.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
All right,
I've got a lot of friends. I've got a lot of friends.
Yeah, well, you can buy as many friends as you like. So that's 4 friends you've got: Harefield Hospital, Chester Cathedral, Chester King's School Chester, and Chester Zoo.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
By the way, I got a tweet from somebody who shall remain nameless.
Right.
Because obviously he doesn't want me to know that he's in touch with me.
Yes.
He doesn't want you to know.
Yes.
But he tells me that the MP for Chester, who's a guy called Chris Matheson,
right,
has apparently called for Roberto Martinez to get the bullet.
Has he?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, he sent a tweet
I think
out
he's a
saying,
Lib Dem, isn't he?
hashtag Labour man.
Oh, Labour, is he?
Yeah.
Oh, it's Labour now, is
Chris
it?
Matheson.
Ah,
and he tweeted out on April the 3rd, hashtag Martinez out.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a bit harsh.
What do you make of that?
Well, I don't know too much about this gentleman, so I can't really pass comment on him, but I don't think...
Well, you can pass comment on his opinion of Martinez.
Well, I'm always very, very suspicious when politicians try to court publicity by making out that they're football fans, you know?
Are you saying he's a charlatan?
Well, David Cameron's made, you know, the present Prime Minister made an absolute fool of himself by trying to pretend he's a football fan and not even remembering which team he supported.
Well, he got the colours right, though, didn't he?
Yeah, he got the colours right.
Claret and blue.
Yeah, before that, of course...
Actually, you might say, ever since
yeah.
Cameron said he was a Villa fan, it's all gone horribly wrong
It's all
for
gone
him.
horribly wrong for them, indeed. But he said he was a West Ham fan last time, didn't he? I think that was the most recent
Yeah, well, he
one.
did, yeah.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
But then he corrected himself.
Before that, Tony Blair made an absolute fool of himself by talking about sitting behind the goal...
War Jackie.
Watching War Jackie.
When he couldn't possibly have been there.
No, War Jackie would have to have been 70 years of age at the time that Tony Blair was a child.
Yes.
And there were no seats behind the goals in those days.
Right.
You stood, as I did, at a game at St James's Park. So politicians just make complete and utter fools of themselves when they try to be football fans, and they're not really. Caught in publicity, the very, very popular game that football is.
Yeah.
Andy Burnham, actually, is a genuine football fan, and I've sat alongside him at Goodison Park, because he's an Evertonian.
What does he think about Martinez, then?
I don't know. I haven't asked him, to be honest. So, I don't know. But he is, generally a devoted... supporter, I suppose.
Is he?
Is the word, yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, yes.
We've got lots more coming up, including
Indeed.
Ask Porky. Got some very good text to read out to you as well.
Great. What are you laughing at?
Oh, dear. Do you know where they're from?
They're from Glasgow.
No, they're from Manchester.
Manchester, that's right, yeah. And who's their lead singer?
The Stone Roses.
Yeah.
Yeah. From Manchester.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Axl.
Not Axl Rose, no, he was in Guns N' Roses.
Oh, was he? Right, OK.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's a different group, isn't it? Yeah. And they were from Glasgow, weren't they?
What?
Guns N' Roses?
No, they're from America.
Oh, America, OK, right. So...
Although I think I think Slash, the guitarist, has got some kind of roots in somewhere like Coventry.
Has he?
Or
Yeah,
Birmingham,
okay.
somewhere like that.
All right, that's great. So so that group we've just heard was the Stone Roses.
The Stone Roses singing about elephants.
Oh, singing about elephants?
Yeah.
OK, what was it called then?
Elephant Stone.
Elephant Stone.
Name of the song,
I like
yeah.
that. That's great. Now, now, you know why we're playing that?
No.
Because...
I always like listening to the Stone Roses, though.
You do? Why? A good group?
They are.
What do they sound
and they're
like?
sort of defunct. Well, they sound like what you just heard.
Yeah, but that's just a 30-second take out of one of their records. Are they
well,
rockers?
Play some, well, yeah, I suppose you could say that, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Anyway, listen.
Massive following they had up in at the time when they were big.
In Manchester.
Well, all over, really.
I'm delighted. That's good. Now then, according to my historical journals, of which I've had a new volume delivered just this week.
Really?
Yeah.
What, covering a particular period?
Well, actually, yes, covering the period up to 230 BC, right?
What did you have? Was that missing, that one?
No, it's just like extend my knowledge all the time by going further and further back in history.
Oh, right. So what period does it cover then?
Well, it covers sort of AD to 230 BC.
Okay, what, backwards?
Well, of course it's backwards, you idiot. BC means before Christ.
It does.
AD is like Anno Domini when Christ was born.
That's right.
Okay?
Yeah.
Right. Now, it covers, amongst other things...
Last time Everton won anything.
I'll just ignore that
Sorry.
nonsense.
I couldn't help
that. It covers, apart from other things, the route that Hannibal took over the Alps.
Oh, yeah.
And there's much more new information in it. We actually found the route now that he took. Because for many, many centuries now, we thought that he went one particular route, a northern route, skirting the border of Switzerland. In fact, we've now decided...
Presumably the borders of those countries weren't really there then, were they?
Well,
I mean, it's all part of the Roman Empire, wasn't it?
Yes, it was, but you're talking now about the modern borders. So, but actually, he went right the way across the Pyrenees, all the way across France, into Italy, and came down the hill into Rome, and and he surprised them. And
so where did he cross the Alps then?
Well, he crossed the Alps at a place called Traversette. Traversette.
Is that not so much? Is that more French than Swiss? Then?
Oh, it's much more French. Much more French than Swiss.
So you went further south than
He went
everyone
further
thinks.
south, absolutely.
Oh,
yeah.
Right.
The improbable 1,000-mile march brought him very nearly to the gates of ancient Rome and ranks among the most outrageously bold manoeuvres in military history. How did the Carthaginian general pull it all off? Did he haul his army over the Col de Clapier?
Yeah.
Or did he...
Col de Clapier.
Col de Clapier, yeah.
That sounds like something you get from one of those weekends away, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. Or did he tramp over the pass at nearby Mont Cenis, Cenis, leaving his signature carved into the rock for Napoleon to find 2,000 years later?
Really?
Which is what happened. Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing.
Now, do you know how we found all this out?
Yeah.
And this is a bit distasteful, actually. What do you mean you do?
Well, Sandy told me about this one as well.
Oh, they found dung deposits all the way on the route.
Which they can now examine.
Dung deposits from...
scientific advancement.
From elephants. What they couldn't work out is, when they first got it, they thought, what is this doing here? And then they realised that dung deposits were very similar to those of elephants in Africa, where it must have been Hannibal's elephants.
Yes, I know.
Isn't that amazing?
Extraordinary. Yeah. You know, my daughter was away this weekend in Berlin.
Oh, yes.
And she found a restaurant, one of the oldest restaurants in Berlin.
Oh, yes.
She was very excited to tell me that apparently Napoleon had dinner there.
Oh, right. Well, I've probably been there, to be honest, yeah.
Do you know the name of it?
Spent a lot of time in Berlin.
I can't remember what she said.
No, I can't remember the name of it. No. But I went to a lot of historical restaurants in Berlin. Berlin's an amazing city.
Historical restaurants?
Yeah.
Well, what do you mean, historical restaurants?
Well, restaurants that were used by the Nazi high command and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
I don't fancy that.
Well, you know, it used to happen.
Rob says this, people who brag about giving money to charity are normally the ones who give zero.
Well, I don't brag about it. You asked me, and I just told you.
Well, you went on and on about it.
No, I didn't. No.
Peter says, Mike, Porky's only a friend if he can be a friend with benefits. Quid pro quo is how it works for the old Porkmeister.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Another one from Rob saying, "Why? What an idiot, Porky. Why do you think London's the only place you can buy vinyl? Porky the snob."
What do you mean?
Well, you said that you didn't think that there was any places selling vinyl albums outside of London.
Oh, I see what you mean, yeah. Well, where else are they sold?
Well, everywhere.
Well, I just said, didn't I? Can you get them in Newry? Can you get them in Durham?
I said probably yes.
Yeah, OK, well, you can. You know, I don't see them around, that's all.
Here's one from Doug in Droitwich. Yeah. Do either of you know what a group of cats is called? I must say I didn't know the answer to this.
A cattery, is it?
A clouder, apparently.
A what?
A clouder.
Clouder. I know Droitwich. I used to cover Droitwich Football Club.
Really?
Yes, along with Worcester, Bromsgrove, Sutton, and Kidderminster.
OK.
Yeah.
Mike at Esher says, Slash comes from London but lived for many years in Stoke.
Is that
Not in capital letters, Coventry. Well, I said I thought he was from somewhere around there. And Stoke and Coventry are not a million miles away from each other.
Well, Coventry's in the West Midlands and Stoke's in Staffordshire.
Yeah, I know, but they're not far away.
Listen, just to conclude the Hannibal thing, right, because you asked me all about it, it was, in fact, you see, in one of my journals, 2 papers published in the journal, Archaeometry. Archaeometry.
What is that? That's an interesting word.
Yeah, that's right.
I've never heard that word.
Archaeometry is the study of this very thing, warfare and all this kind of stuff, right? They argue that the find is an almost perfect fit for the Carthaginian army because the carbon dating of the elephant dung that they found is bang on. A dense mulch of organic matter. And they say it must only have come from there. Chris Allen, Queen's University Belfast microbiologist, who led the analysis, said they've even identified what they thought was the very elephant that Hannibal will have ridden himself. Isn't that amazing?
Well, I suppose it's amazing, but it's very amazing for them. But I'm not sure it makes much difference to the large bulk of the populace. I don't think they really care.
No, but unless we understand the past, we cannot predict the future.
Well, we can't predict the future anyway.
Well,
doesn't matter whether you understand the past or not.
We can get a feeling about the future if we understand the past. You know, I've always said that.
All right. Well, how about this from Danny in South Tottenham? Very specifically. Porky, only unimaginative people think that words in music are a prerequisite. I myself love words and poetry, but I'm also a real music fan.
Yes.
If the music is good enough, it won't need pretentious, half-baked paragraphs. That said, I do have the utmost respect for you.
Well, thank you very much.
Talk about a backhanded compliment.
Yeah, utmost respect for me, you mean?
Yeah.
Excellent.
That's what he says, even though he says you're wrong about the music. Because, I mean, you think about classical music, it doesn't have lyrics, does it?
No, it doesn't have lyrics, no, you're absolutely right. Whenever I meet somebody who either writes music or words, I always ask them, you know, if they write in a partnership, you know, like Lennon McCartney or something like that, I always ask, well, what happens first? Does the guy who writes the music then come to you and say, I've got this bit of music and I want some words for it? Or does the guy write the words and then go to his mate, who is the musician,
well, it varies,
and say, well, I've never had a straight answer. No. I met Tim Rice, right? In the boardroom at a football club. I think it was Arsenal or somewhere like that. I'm not sure.
He's an Arsenal fan, isn't he?
I think he must be if he was in the boardroom there.
Yeah.
And I said, you know, and of course he's a cricket fanatic.
Yeah.
You know, he obviously likes football, but he's a cricket fanatic.
Yeah.
And I was having a chat, having a drink with him, just chatting. And I said, look, you know, can you answer me this question? And because he's one of the greatest living lyricists. Right. You know, he wrote Chess, which is the stage play.
Well, he used to be the partner of Andrew Lloyd Webber, didn't he?
Absolutely. For a lot of the early productions of Andrew Lloyd Webber, they were Andrew Lloyd Webber, Tim Rice, and he was the lyricist, wrote all the words. And I said, what happens? Do you, suddenly come up with, for want of a better word, a poem or a set of lyrics, and then you go to Andrew Lloyd Webber and you say, look, I've got these lyrics here, and why don't we wrap some music around them?
Yeah.
I said, or does Andrew Lloyd Webber come to you and say, look, I've got this wonderful tune in my head, and I need some words? He said, no. But he couldn't explain how it happened. Right. He said they sit down together in the same room and,
But don't certain songwriters and lyricists work in different ways as well? I mean, obviously Tim Rice and Andrew Lloyd Webber don't work together anymore anyway. But,
no.
I mean, presumably, in some cases the music comes first, and in others it doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. That's what he said. And he said, to be honest, I haven't got a poem in my head and Andrew hasn't got a tune in his head.
Yeah.
We sit there and play around because usually a lyricist can actually, play the basics of a piano or something like that. Yeah. He said, and you just play around until it comes out.
Right.
And I suppose Lennon McCartney must have used to do that. I saw a thing the other day, by the way. This is quite interesting.
Yeah.
Everybody's talking about, the greatest albums of all time and all that. And the last track on Sgt. Pepper's is A Day in the Life, right?
Yeah.
And I read a letter in the Times or something like that, which said, if only Paul McCartney hadn't stuck that infantile children's message into the middle of A Day in the Life, it would have been one of the greatest records of all time.
Why?
Well, the middle bit and the bit is about woke up, got out of bed.
Oh, I think that's great.
I think it's brilliant. I think it's brilliant.
Well, who said it was childlike?
I don't know. This person,
some complete Philistine.
Yeah, this person
the sort of person that would claim that Laurence Olivier is not much of an actor.
Well, there are people like that around.
There are.
But no, I mean, the answer is, what came first, the chicken or the egg? What came first, the lyrics or the music?
What is the answer to that one, the chicken and the egg one?
Well, I don't know. I'm not going into that. But there's no answer to what came first, the words or the music.
Oh, no, because it's a variable.
Of course it's a variable.
Tim Rice is a Sunderland fan, says Brooksy in Washington.
Is that right? Oh, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
Very interesting.
We shall see.
Yeah, good to know.
And someone else is saying that they said in the news recently that bigger branches of Sainsbury's are going to start selling vinyl again.
Oh, are they? Ah, that's very interesting.
There you go. So you'll have to change your allegiance from Morrison's, won't you? This is Talk Sport. Coming up next, it's time for Ask Porky.
Get the job done on Talk Sport with Toolstation. Will Spain reign again?
And Spain are into the lead.
Are France in with a chance? Or will the Three Lions finally roar? As the International League prepare to go head-to-head to lift the biggest prize in European football, join Hawksby and Jacobs every Monday from 1 to find out which team can get the job done. UEFA Euro 2016 on Talk Sport with Toolstation. Low prices on top trade brands. Open late 7 days a week. Find your nearest branch at toolstation.com.
Whether you're saving up for a trip to paradise or building your dream bathroom, the money you're putting aside is perfectly safe, protected by the FSCS up to £75,000. Should anything happen to your bank, building society or credit union, it's completely automatic, free of charge, and you'll normally get your money back within 7 days. You'll probably never need us, but it's good to know we're here. Search FSCS Protected to check you're fully covered.
Are you ready for the Grand National? Betfair are paying 5 places on the big race. Plus, we're giving all new customers money back as a free bet if their horse doesn't finish. Get ready for the off and visit Betfair today. Betfair. Tap, tap, boom. Places paid at quarter odds applies to win and win part of each way singles. First bet per race qualifies. Free bet stakes not returned. Exclusions and terms at betfair.com. 18 plus gambleaware.co.uk.
The Two Mics. Simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport.
Mr. Parry is here to help.
Indeed.
We'll try and we've got loads and loads of questions, Mr. Parry.
Yes.
So we're going to try and get through as many of them as possible.
Let's do that.
First one concerns children and holidays.
Right.
And it's from Simon.
Okay.
It says family holiday, £3,500. Leave on the 26th of August and £2,500 on the 29th of August. Should I take my daughter out of school, risking a fine but saving £1,000?
Well, I definitely would. I think you'll find that only in the last 10 days we've heard that a particular headmaster took his family on a cycling holiday. He did it in term time because he had all the same pressures and problems as other parents, payments and all that. So absolutely no doubt that the travel industry penalises and punishes and takes advantage of the fact that parents can only go away in a very narrow window of time. So my answer is, providing you're making provision for your child to catch up on all the education it's missing whilst you're away, I see nothing wrong with it.
OK. How about this coming up from... it's more of a sort of... I don't know, it's more of a personal one, I suppose. And it says, how did the iron ore crisis affect the Chinese or British steel industry? Are they related to what's happening now?
Yeah.
That comes from Woodenhead.
Yeah, they're absolutely related. What happened is that when China was in boom mode, and so therefore each quarter it was expanding its economy by about 16%, it was building things like power stations. It was building whole cities, actually. Whole cities we've never heard of have got like 12 or 15 million people in them in China, and cities can only be built with the iron girders that form the frames for the skyscrapers that form the buildings in places like Shanghai.
Right.
Now, whilst that demand is there, the iron ore industry was booming in Australia, in Western Australia, near Perth. That's where all the iron ore in the world comes from, or a great deal of it. When the Chinese situation slowed down because the economy was overheating, demand for iron ore fell away, therefore the industry collapsed in Australia. But China found they'd overordered too much steel, and they have now dumped that steel on the world steel markets to try and get rid of it from being a dead weight on their own economy. That, in turn, has led to the fact that we've got a big problem at Port Talbot, particularly as energy costs in this country to produce steel are the highest in the world through stupid government policies to make us all pay for ridiculous things like wind farms and carbon protection taxes.
OK. Thank you very much indeed for that. Ashley in Birmingham says, I'm currently in a deadbeat relationship and have lovely children, but I'm also speaking to an American woman who is very keen on Rogerisation and marriage. Do I stay in this deadbeat relationship, or do I live out my life dream and move to the States? Please help.
I can't understand why anybody stays in a deadbeat relationship. You only get one life. It's not a rehearsal. So you should look to find a fulfilling life for you. The problem is, you've mentioned you have children, therefore that's got to be your first consideration. You must do what you think is best for your children, for their education, for their well-being, for their upbringing. But if you can combine that with going to America and finding a new life for yourself, be adventurous and go for it.
OK. Here's one from Lisa, which is rather topical because it concerns something that we were watching earlier on one of our internal monitors. I wonder, she says, if one of Porky's medical journals could explain if memory loss is sexually transmitted. Carol Malone on the Sky newspaper review tonight said a brave dog was blown up by a, thingy. The host replied, an IED, and she sighed, yes, whatever you know what I mean. Maybe she and Porky are deliberately trying to wipe their memories.
No, I'm not trying to wipe my memories. An IED is an improvised explosive device used, sadly, to full effect by horrible people, terrorists and the like, in Afghanistan and certainly in other parts of battle scenes where British soldiers have been, causing terrible injuries.
Why are you answering a question about the IED?
Well, because I don't understand the question.
Oh, OK. Well, we haven't got time for that answer then.
Yeah.
How about this from Pierre? Dear Porky, I was born and raised in South East London near Crystal Palace, but since childhood I have chosen to and still support Liverpool. Am I a proper football supporter or not? Should people support their local team or doesn't it matter?
No, of course you're a proper supporter. Look, I've got nothing against people supporting a team that is not geographically located to where they live. I support Everton, but I live both in London on the south coast, 200 to 300 miles away, although I was born within a few miles of Everton's ground. Now, some people are 3 or 4 years of age, suddenly see a football match on the telly, think, wow, that was spectacular, I'm going to support them. I've got a friend who comes from Lincolnshire who supported Spurs all her life and still does because of one match she saw when she was a child. I've nothing wrong with that at all. The fan that I most despise, or do despise, are those who have supported more than one team during their life just because they've moved house, they've moved their allegiance because they can't keep up the support for their original team. That is despicable.
Here's one from Charlie who says, Porky, who's the funniest person you have ever interviewed?
Funniest person I've ever interviewed. No, not myself at all. Oh, Torquay beat Chester 2-0 tonight, by the way. I've just seen that on one of our monitors. That's very sad.
Why do you care?
Well, because they're my hometown. Now,
are you a friend of Chester Football Club as well?
Well, I'm a supporter of theirs. I'm a supporter, yeah.
You send them £100 a year?
No, I don't know, but I go to the occasional match when I'm up in that part of the world. Now, let me just tell you, the funniest person I have ever interviewed is Alan Brazil. Without a shadow of a doubt. No, without a shadow of a doubt.
I don't doubt that.
I've interviewed a few comedians during my time. I told you the story about Dick Emery.
We haven't got time for a story.
When a friend of ours interviewed him and said, what's your favourite joke?
Porky.
What's your favourite joke,
This is
Dick?
Ask Porky.
What's your favourite joke, Dick? He said, I don't do jokes.
Yeah.
Anyway, go on.
This is Ask Porky. Mark says this, hey, Porky, you used to call yourself the Seeker of Truth and Justice,
yes,
but I haven't heard you mention it for a while now. Are you still seeking truth and justice? And if so, when's the last time you found any?
I am seeking truth and justice on a daily basis. I do not boast about being the seeker of truth and justice because I think people know intrinsically that I am. The last time I sought truth and justice and came across it was when I took up the campaign to save Tommy the Chimp in New York.
Right.
You will find
How's that going?
that's a campaign that will inevitably and ultimately result in success. That is seeking truth and justice.
Let's hope before he finally pops his clogs, because otherwise, haven't got much time left. Here's one from KB. I put £2 on Leicester City to win the title at the beginning of the year, 1,500 to 1. I'm being offered 1,600. Should I wait or cash out?
No, don't cash out at all. Wait till the end. A, because you were bold enough to make the bet in the first place, so you see it through to the end. But B, now, because with 6 games to go, I'm pretty sure they're going to win it. You'd be a fool to cash out.
Well, I mean, that's an interesting question. How about this from Gerard?
Yeah.
Should I get on the bladderation trail with you after the show on Saturday or go and watch the boxing?
If I were you, mate, I'd enjoy the show as much as you can and certainly go on the bladderation trail afterwards. I personally won't be on a big bladderation trail on Saturday because I'm on a sort of beer-only diet at the moment. Of course, I'll enjoy a few sherbets.
You can still get bladdered on the beer, can't you?
Oh, yes. I'll enjoy a few sherbets with the people who are coming to our show. Looking forward to it very much. See you at the Dance House on Saturday night.
OK. Here's one from Richard. He's an Aston Villa fan. Do I renew my season ticket at the Villa or give my hard-earned cash to a more deserving local lower league club?
Oh, no, I'd renew it at the Villa. It's going to be a very exciting season for Villa fans next season because it's not an emotion I'd want to share, but you are literally going to see make or break for Villa next season. You're either going to come back very, very strongly by getting some assurances from Randy Lerner to get money in, to get a proper manager in, to fight back and do what Newcastle did and come back first season down, or you're going to go down yourselves.
Here's one from Neil. It says, I listen every night when feeding my baby, and I'm worried his first words will either be Rogerisation or bladderation. Should I stop?
No, not at all. A child has got to have a breadth of thought, and the earlier they get the breadth of thought on life, the better. You have to understand that bladderation and Rogerisation are things which affect every human being. So the whole panoply of human emotion is there.
The what?
Panoply, the whole panoply. Yes, of human emotion is there.
Right.
Fear not.
OK. How about this one from Thomas? A slow trend of vegetarianism is taking over, including my in-laws and friends. How can I stay a carnivore?
Well, just keep eating meat. And by the way, don't be put under any emotional pressure just to eat vegetables yourself. Vegetarians, if they're genuine about what they do for their health and all that, that's fine. I respect them for it. I do not respect anybody who's a vegetarian because it's trendy. I don't like trendy people.
OK. Matthew says this. My football club has seen the value of its prime asset drop in value this year as his form has worsened and our star forward is likely to leave in the summer for Champions League football. If this was how you would deal, if this was you, how would you deal with the situation?
We deal with the situation by making sure the players who play for you know of the ambition of the club. A very ambitious club run by the right people and with great fans will always succeed.
OK. Here's one on property from Josh. As a property investor, Porky, do you happen to have any recommendations?
Well, I'm very disappointed with the property situation at the moment because the government, who claimed when they asked us to vote for them that they're a low-tax government, have, in fact, have become a very heavily taxing government, and they're sticking ridiculously heavy taxes on property investment at the moment. Get a good accountant and try and work out a way to pay as little tax as possible on a situation which has become onerous and anti-business and non-competitive.
Now, Sean is asking a very personal financial question.
Yes.
You may wish to decline to answer this one.
Right.
What's the biggest amount you could sign a cheque for right now?
I can't answer that question because, to be perfectly honest...
You haven't got your chequebook?
Well, I haven't got my chequebook, but it would depend on what sort of cheque, what it was for...
One that doesn't bounce.
Where I was going to draw it from, for what purpose I was going to cash it. I honestly can't answer that question. I'm delighted to be able to say that I have a comfortable position in life, as do many people, and it's something that I have worked for the last 45 years.
Kayang says, Porky, would you rather be ugly and live forever or become attractive and die in a year?
Well...
I'm sure you've got the choice.
Well, I'd rather be me as I am, and I have no problems with it at all. I have never... had a problem about trying to stem me losing my hair as people do when they get older. I would never consider plastic surgery. I don't go around getting, white gnashes stuck in my mouth and all that. You take me as you see me, and I feel comfortable in my own skin.
That's very good. Next one's from Kurt. Porky, how much do you weigh?
I weigh approximately...
you can do it in kilos if you wish.
About 82 kilos.
82 kilos?
Yes, about 82, 83 kilos.
OK.
Yeah.
Well, for those of us on the non-metric system,
Yes.
I'll get that changed.
OK.
Rob says, I'm off to Ibiza on Thursday for a holiday. Mr. Porky, could you kindly suggest something for me to do when I get there, please?
Well, pretty obviously you're going to Ibiza. I haven't been to Ibiza for many, many years.
I've never been to Ibiza.
But I don't think I have, actually. I've been to Mallorca, that's right. I haven't been to Ibiza, sorry. But it's, as I understand it, it is Party Island. So the basic tenets of a Party Island holiday are bladderisation, Rogerisation and complete lack of discipline.
Yeah, and morals of an alley cat behaviour, presumably.
Yes.
Jack says, have you ever lost anything down a grid? And if so, what?
No.
I assume that means a drain, doesn't it?
Yeah, a grid like on the in the gutter, the gutter. Yeah. Well, funny enough, and it's funny you should say that. Actually, it's almost mesmic or cosmic. This I opened the door to my car the other night, and as I did, the key almost slipped out of my hand, and my heart skipped because as I looked into the gutter, where the car was parked, there was a grid right below, and I thought, blimey, if I'd have lost that key down that gutter, I'd never got it back.
So you call it a grid, right?
Yeah.
So that means this person must come from the same part of the world as you, because when I read that question first, I wasn't sure what he meant.
Yeah, a grid is the.
I call it a drain.
Well, it's the grid, but the grid is the cover over the drain.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
Yeah, one more.
All right, last one. Finally, have you worn, says Tex, ever worn a hat for fashion reasons?
Have I ever worn a hat for fashion reasons?
Yeah.
Yes, I wore my Peaky Blinders hat last time we were on stage in Birmingham.
Yeah.
And the reason I did, it was given to me by the writer of Peaky Blinders, who invited me to the screening of the last episode of the second series. His name is Stephen Knight, and he brought the hat to the screening for me and presented it to me. I'm very, very proud to wear it. It's the only hat I've ever worn.
OK. Are you going to wear
I've got an Everton bobble hat. I've got an Everton Woolly bobble hat.
Are you going to wear it to Manchester?
No, I'm not going to wear it to Manchester. It has no relevance to Manchester.
No, indeed.
No.
OK, that was Ask Porky.
Yes.
More of the same time next week.
Yes.
Of course, we are the Two Mikes.
Yes.
The Two Mikes. Simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Think of that?
Yeah, good song.
Yeah, it's Eric Clapton.
Eric Clapton, did he write it?
I don't know.
Is that his song? What was it called?
It might not be his song.
What's it called?
Tulsa Time, I think.
Tulsa Time, yeah. Very interesting.
I mean, a lot of the stuff he did, he didn't actually write. But his strength is not in writing songs. His strength is in playing songs.
Yes, OK. You keep telling me that.
Here's one from Becky, who says, so, Porky is 82 kilograms or 12 stone, 12 pounds in old money.
Yes.
I'm therefore a size 0 supermodel based on the Porky weight scales.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think she doubts your veracity there.
It might have gone up a bit. Might be about 88.
88?
Might be about 88.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Which is about a stone heavier, because 6 kilos equal a stone.
Well, I always go for 210 pounds.
Yeah.
Is 15 stone, isn't it?
Is it? I don't know. I don't know about that. Now, listen, have you ever had a home where you've had garden gnomes in the garden?
I've never had garden gnomes.
Neither have I.
I thought you had a garden gnome on your roof terrace.
Well, I have, because somebody bought it for me and gave it to me.
You just said you've never had one.
Well, I said I've never bought them myself, but my mum bought me this one. It's a skipping gnome.
Right.
It has a little skipping rope. You know?
Right.
And
didn't our executive producer buy you one as well?
Yes, he did.
So you got two?
No, I gave that to my mum.
You gave it to her?
That was the one with a little wheelbarrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. She's got that in a garden, actually.
Oh, that's
no,
nice.
the reason I ask is because, I mean...
you've got one on your roof garden, because I've got a picture of it.
I've told you where it came from. My mum bought it me.
You said you didn't have any.
I've never bought one myself. I've told you that,
see.
you idiot. Wish you could listen.
OK.
Anyway...
Why are you asking me, then?
Well, the reason I'm asking is I've never understood the fascination with garden gnomes. Some people
why have you got one?
10 or 12. For the third time, you thick... Burke, because my mum bought it for me.
So
what am I supposed to do? Throw it out?
Well, yeah.
Oh, thanks,
you don't
I
like
don't want
it.
that. Yeah, sorry, don't be ridiculous.
Well, why wouldn't you? I mean, you give her the most ridiculous presents, don't you?
No.
You once gave her, did you not, a portrait of yourself?
Yes.
And where did she put that?
She hangs it in the hall.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. Now then, the point is, they're dying out. Did you know that?
No.
An overwhelming 94% of people now say they would never have a gnome in their garden. The highest percentage
Well, I
of
certainly
people
wouldn't.
who've rejected it forever.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, because they're horrible.
Well,
and also they kind of are...
I think they're kind of sinister.
Sinister?
Yeah, don't you?
Well, no, they're not sinister. They're just crap.
apparently garden centres, which used to make a fortune selling gnomes, and windmills are now discontinuing them.
Really?
However, there are still 5 million gnomes in the UK,
right?
But sales have literally halved since 2006. The ornaments also now come last in a Garden Trends poll, with just 6% saying they owned one, and overwhelming 94% say they would never have a gnome in their garden.
So if your mother gave you a garden gnome every year for the next 5 years,
yes,
you would have 5, basically, on your roof terrace. What you're telling me is that you would keep them there?
Well, of course I would.
Why?
Well, because you don't throw away your mum's presents, do you?
Well, you've thrown away presents I've given you.
Yeah, but you're not my mum, are you? You're the half baked that I work with, and the sort of presents you give me are usually designed to.
I've given you loads of presents over the years, and all you do is you chuck them away and you treat me with scant regard.
Yeah, I do. Because
so why wouldn't you throw away another present you didn't like?
Because the presents you give me, you think they're jokes. In fact, they're just pathetic.
That's not true.
Utterly pathetic.
That's not true. I bought you a Christmas present, I think, a couple of years ago, and you threw it on the ground. I bought you a game.
Rubbish.
And you broke it in front of my eyes.
Rubbish.
I tried to give you an Easter egg, I think, once, and you chucked it in the bin and said that you didn't want to eat something because it was poisoned.
Utter nonsense. Now, we've only got one night after this one, haven't we, which we can prepare ourselves for Manchester.
That's very true.
Right.
And the Porky quiz is going to be on Bobby Charlton, which is Manchester-based.
Yeah,
Manchester
Charlton.
kind of themed.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. How are you getting up to Manchester?
I'm going to drive.
You're going to drive. I'm going on the first-class train.
Are you?
Yeah, I prefer that.
Oh, lucky old you.
Yeah, and by the way, what an interesting day it's going to be. I'm deliberately getting there, early afternoon.
Are you?
Because the Grand National's being run.
Yes, but that's later now, isn't it?
It's 5:15.
Is it that late?
Yes, this is the good thing about it.
It used to be like 3:45.
No, it's 5:15 now.
Right.
And they say...
Will you be making a bet?
Time. Oh, yes, indeed. I'll bet on any horse that's...
I think there's a betting shop right next to the dance house.
Is there? How do you know that?
Well, I've seen a picture.
Oh, OK.
Did you not see all the pictures that were sent over the weekend?
Maybe.
Because one guy drove past the dance house and said, I've just driven past the dance house and there's no posters of the two mics.
Well, there are.
So I posted, I retweeted it and addressed it to the dance house and said, you better get this sorted out.
Yes.
And then the next thing that happened was the dance house tweeted out and said, oh, no, there are posters.
There are, yeah.
And they showed pictures.
Yeah, they'd already sent me some
And I'm pretty sure
pictures.
that the dance house, in front of it, there's a Greggs to the left of it.
Yes.
So you won't have any problem getting your pies.
Yeah, I don't eat them anyway.
You don't eat pies?
No.
Why not?
What would I eat pies for?
Pies are lovely.
Well,
what's wrong with pies?
You said I don't eat them.
Are you telling me you don't eat pies?
No, I don't eat pies, no. Right, now then...
Amazing. And anyway, on the right, I think there's a betting shop.
That's right, there's a betting shop. OK, fine. Now, did you realise that we are in danger of losing our oaks and our ash trees?
I don't care. I've had enough of this ridiculous scaremongering that you've been going on with.
There is a double attack on both of them. Dutch elm...
Rubbish. Dutch elm disease has been around for years.
Yes, I know, but what I'm telling you is, we've now got ash dieback.
Who's that?
Ash dieback is the name of the disease, which is killing off our
I read
ashes.
about this months ago.
Yeah.
I'd rather read out some tweets. One of them is from Shaw, who says, I live a mile away from Gnome World in Cornwall.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And what do they have there?
I would imagine quite a lot of gnomes.
Exactly, but how many exactly?
Well, he doesn't say. He just says he lives a mile away from it.
Yeah.
Peter says, skipping gnome, I think your mum is giving you a subtle hint to get some exercise.
I don't think so. I get plenty of exercise, thank you.
Anthony says, Porky weighed 13 stone. He must be shorter than I thought.
No. Live.
Rob says, 12 stone, prove it, Porky, more like 18 stone.
No.
Nobody's buying this, I'm afraid.
Don't be ridiculous.
And Mick says that Stone Roses are back in the studio working on a new album.
Are they really?
Because I said that when they were big. And I mean, I'm sure they are going to make a new album, but they haven't been big, really, for a while, have they?
Yeah, it really excites me, that. Ash dieback arrived in 2012 from Europe and is killing 90% of ash trees.
Yeah.
Horse chestnut bleeding canker, right, is found in more found in more of half of Britain's horse chestnuts.
Right.
Threatens to kill both conkers and the trees. Dutch elm disease... It's been here since the 1920s.
Yeah, Dutch elm disease actually killed a massive, beautiful elm tree in Royal Mid-Surrey Golf Club when I was a teenager.
I'm not surprised.
And they had to chop it down, and it made a real difference to one of the holes, funnily enough.
I bet it did. And he came back in the 1960s.
I thought that... well, no, that was after the 1960s.
No, it came first in the 1920s. We killed it off. Then a new wave came in the 1960s.
Yeah, but I wasn't playing golf in the 1920s.
Yeah, but it's been there since the 1960s again.
I thought all the elms had been killed off by that anyway.
No. Japanese larch disease... Right, the Welsh government has announced plans to fell 6 million larches. Can you believe that?
Larches?
Yeah, they're going to cut down 6 million trees.
Well, if they get diseased, that's what they're going to do.
The disease has swept across England and Wales since 2009. And the latest one, the red band needle blight. causes pines to drop their needles.
Oh dear!
And in some cases die. I mean, our trees are under attack, mate, and you should be aware of that.
Yeah. Well, what can you do about it? Nobody knows how to stop it, do they?
Well,
it's like this Alabama rot I was telling you about that's affecting dogs. Nobody knows how to stop it.
I'd much rather put a load of money into trying to save our trees than keep sending it abroad. I really would.
Why don't you give the 400 quid that you give to those operations in Chester to the tree people, and maybe they could do something with it?
How many charities are there in the world? Millions.
Yeah,
Too many.
Well, yeah, but if you take your 400 quid... they get nothing out of. Why don't you give it to the tree people?
No, because it's usefully used by other organisations.
I see. Peter says this, Porky, my kids saw the video with you donning the gorilla mask, and my daughter wants to know whether you do birthday parties.
No, but I'm very happy to send best wishes to anybody who would like to receive them.
And Glenn says, Ash Dieback sounds like a Welsh hairdresser. That's very good.
Yeah, it does a bit, yeah.
It does. Now, we're nearly out of time. So you've got a bit of a busy day ahead of you, I suppose, because you'll be on the sports breakfast this morning with Mr. Brazil.
Yes, I certainly will, yeah. Sorting out those papers with Mr. Brazil and Raymondo.
Indeed.
Ray Parlour.
What about Manchester City tonight against PSG? Because we didn't really talk about the Champions League that much. I mean, we did a little bit in the first hour.
Yes.
Bayern Munich only beat Benfica by 1-0. Are you going to do a prediction for the score, do you think, for Manchester City and PSG?
I think both the stellar clubs who played last night, Barcelona and Bayern Munich, face tough second legs, don't they?
I think they do.
I think they do, with one goal advantage in any European
I mean, I've got
game.
a feeling Bayern Munich will do better in the second leg, to be honest.
Maybe.
Because they weren't that good last night.
Yeah, maybe.
And Benfica aren't really that good either.
No.
But Atletico Madrid, I think you're right.
Yeah, they could be a problem.
I think they might upset them.
Yeah, they might do. Most people I've spoken to have written off Manchester City against PSG.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't think you can.
I don't think you can. And also, you've got to remember that PSG don't play competitively at home week in, week out. That's why they're 22 points ahead in their league. They've already won the league. They don't have competitive games at home. Doesn't keep them on their edge. They're a bit of a one-man team,
aren't they? They weren't brilliant against Chelsea, were they?
They weren't brilliant against Chelsea. Chelsea were very poor at the time and disorganised and unstable. And they are a one-man team, aren't they, PSG, to all intents and purposes?
Well, I mean, they've got a few decent players, but they're not. I mean, funnily enough, there's a big piece in one of the papers this morning about how the amount of money they've spent over the past few years compared to Manchester City has dwarfed Manchester City's spending.
I know.
And that's what's got them into the first quarter-final of the Champions League and maybe the first semi-final.
But where do they hope to go? Because they play in a domestic league, which is so weak.
Well, I guess
where do they ever hope to go?
Maybe they are one of those clubs that wants to have this sort of Super League in Europe. And
I'm sure they do.
That's where they want to. That's where they want to take their fortunes.
It's happened in France before, hasn't it? It happened with Marseille.
Yeah.
And it happened with Monaco.
Right.
Rich men come in. One of the guys owned Adidas, didn't he?
Yeah.
And they pump in loads of money.
It all went wrong at Monaco, though, didn't it?
It all went wrong. It all went wrong at Marseille as well, I think, didn't it?
I think so.
In the end.
Yeah.
Anyway, look, we wish, I certainly wish Manchester City the very best.
Well,
any English team playing in Europe,
I think
want
anyone
them to win.
Except the most tribal of football supporters would want Manchester City to do well. I know there'll be many, certainly Manchester, who might not want that to be the case.
Well, we'd like to see an English team in the Champions League final.
Well, that would be
as simple as that.
Well, you'd like to see an English team winning it.
Of course you would, yeah. Absolutely. But you can't win it unless you get to the final first. Yeah.
Exactly. How will you spend the rest of the day? Will you be doing some more research?
Of course.
Uh-huh.
Yes, absolutely.
Don't forget to bone up on Bobby Charlton.
I don't need to bone up on Bobby Charlton. I know everything about Bobby Charlton.
Really?
Don't worry about it. Yeah, he's one of the great sporting legends and footballing legends of my lifetime, of an era.
A couple of people on the chicken and egg situation.
Right.
Ian in Shenfield says the formation of eggshells relies on a protein found only in a chicken's ovaries. Therefore, an egg can only exist if it has been inside a chicken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think that's fairly...
where does the chicken come from, though? That's the question, isn't it?
It's one of them stupid questions.
Well, it's a very good question, and nobody knows the answer to it. This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mikes.
Look at the light!
Don't forget to follow the Two Mikes at the Two Mikes on Twitter and on YouTube. Just look for Two Mikes TV.
And how?
Wood does not know what he's doing.
Maybe right.
And if he would make up his mind, then he would hire Jose Mourinho.
So,
would he not?
So you would. Yeah?
I would. And I think you would as well.
Would.
But he would not.
Cats idiots actually despise us all and would like to kill us if they had their own way.
If you love the Two Mikes podcast, you'll love the live show. Weekday overnights from 1am on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM and via the TalkSport app. TalkSport, your Premier League station with exclusive commentaries every weekend.
What an absolute corker!
TalkSport.
Stone Roses.
Yeah. You never heard of them, have you?
Yeah, of course I have. Yeah, I know their lead singer was Axl Rose. What are you laughing at?
Oh, dear.